We're getting ready then for the start of the first race of the season. It's a 20-race season this year. A lot of racing to come. We're getting ready for the start now. Through turns numbers 3 and 4, and it's Greg Moore and Adrian Fernandez on the front row together, remember. Patrick Carpentier, and in the Hogan racing car is Helio Castroneves. We await the first green flag of the year. The start is happy. Away they go, and Greg Moore leads them down to turn 1 for the start of the season. Up into third place comes Helio Castroneves. Patrick Carpentier in 4th position, and it looked to me as though Michael Andretti was making a pass around the outside. We've got a crash in turn 2. A crash, the yellows are out already, and several cars are involved in this early stage. Alan Jr. is one of them.
Yep, and Naoki Hattori Ben is the other driver.
Naoki Hattori, the Japanese driver, teammate. Oh, and that's Raul Boesel. That's one of the Team Green cars. Raul Boesel, who is standing in for Paul Tracy. And the red car there, I think, was Richie Hearn that was also involved in that little incident. Well, I don't know about little. I think it's a pretty big incident looking at these two in the wall there at the exit of turn number 2. Alonso Jr.'s red and white Penske right into the wall with the right rear ripped off that car. And Naoki Hattori to his left, that blue car, he's the Japanese rookie joining Gilles de Ferran in the Walker Racing team. Well, let's see if we can get an opportunity to see what happened here, Jeremy. This is the replay from the Goodyear blimp overseeing everything.
He was right on the extreme left of the picture there. Hattori and Unser got together there, and Unser's car pinned up against the wall by Hattori, and a heavy impact there, even on the first lap. These cars are doing in excess of probably 150 miles an hour around that turn.
We rejoin the race on lap 59.
Greg Moore and Patrick Carpentier still battling for the lead of this race.
And in the meantime, there goes Gilles de Ferran past Mauricio Gugelmin into turn 1. That is for 6th position.
Wow, that's amazing. De Ferran up to 6th place. And remember, he's on a different stop strategy. He won't have to come into the pits as soon as these drivers, and we're hearing that Greg Moore will be in next time. We've seen Scott Pruitt come into the pit lane already, and Greg Moore is going to be coming in soon. Also in the pits is Dario Franchitti. Franchitti makes his pit stop now. He was up in a 5th place, but remember, De Ferran is benefiting, and into the pits comes Greg Moore. So Moore makes his pit stop, and the two players' cars are going to make their stops one after another, presumably. Greg Moore, the early leader. Now, how fast can Patrick Carpentier go now that he's got the lead of this race? This could be crucial to him. If Carpentier can put together some quick laps now and then have a good pit stop, he's got the opportunity to get ahead of Greg Moore. The players' crew goes to work, and rapid work indeed from his mechanics. The fuel goes on board. That's what takes the time. It's a gravity feed system for the fuel. It takes a while for it all to go aboard, and finally he gets out of the pits, and into the pits comes teammate Carpentier. So you'll see the two cars there. Carpentier is coming down the pit lane as Greg Moore goes out. Now, it all depends on how fast Patrick was on that last lap, how fast he came into the pit lane, and how quickly his crew can turn him around and get him back out once again. The card officials there to make sure that everything rules-wise is adhered to on this pit stop. They wait for the fuel to go in, and away he goes. 11.8 seconds. Good stop for Carpentier. And now he accelerates out of pit lane as we see Greg Moore coming past our commentary box window. He goes past as Adrian Fernandez is the race leader at this point. He hasn't come into the pits yet. Greg Moore and Patrick Carpentier, I can see them going through turns 1 and 2. Moore is going to go back past Carpentier. They've both made their stops, and meanwhile Fernandez leads. Andretti, who's not yet stopped, he's now 2nd.
Yeah, and right behind him, in actual fact, there's only a couple of car lengths between those two. I'm looking around trying to find them on the racetrack, actually, but actually here comes Fernandez. That's why I couldn't see it. Fernandez is into the pits. We were on board there briefly with the new race leader Michael Andretti, but here is Adrian Fernandez, car number 40, for his first pit stop for Patrick Racing.
Fernandez, who won 2 races last year. He won at the Motegi Oval in Japan, and then he went on to win at Mid-Ohio as well. Always extremely competitive on the ovals. We've also got Juan Montoya coming in, Christian Fittipaldi into the pits, Michael Andretti also choosing this moment to come into the pits, and that means that Gilles de Ferran has now moved up into the lead of this race with these two coming in. Gilles de Ferran will be in front now because, of course, he stopped earlier. So fascinating. Let's just try and listen to the radio here. Radio communication between Ed Nathman and Michael Andretti.
Hold it. Go.
Go, go, he's told, and off he goes. Got to keep to the speed limit. I think it might be Jimmy Vasser coming in now. Let's just take a look. He's in the pit lane. That's Jimmy Vasser, I think, into the pits. Juan Montoya has already made his stop, and he's just outside the top 17 places. Now look at that, quite a big front wing change there. You can see quite a heavy change to the front wing. Jimmy obviously not that happy with the handling of his car. Wind has changed considerably from yesterday to today, and they're still trying to guess the setup for the cars. Just a tiny change can make all the difference. So Jimmy accelerates back out, and in comes Gilles de Ferran. So in fact Gilles does come back onto the same strategy as everybody else, but he may have a little less fuel to put on board, so this may make it a fairly quick stop for Gilles de Ferran.
That's a good point, because when you make a pit stop here and just take on fuel and fresh tyres, the chances are you're going to lose a lap. Of course, having not made a stop and having made up so much ground before he made that pit stop, he will be able to make up quite a bit of ground relative to the race leader, but he will still lose the lead before he rejoins the race. And I think into the lead now, in actual fact, is Dario Franchitti.
Dario Franchitti then. So Franchitti, who has stopped, remember, it looks as though he has taken over the lead of this race. What about the two Forsyth cars? Well, they have dropped behind Michael Andretti as well, so it seems as though their stops took a little longer than the opposition, and Franchitti is now the race leader.
We rejoin the race with Greg Moore leading after Dario Franchitti lost the lead during a pit stop on lap 114 and is now running fourth.
And there are just 10 laps to go. Greg Moore leads 1.4 seconds ahead of Michael Andretti. Jimmy Vasser is third. Dario Franchitti just half a second behind him in fourth position. Now, just looking on down the order, Max Papis is fifth still. He's a long way down, though, some 14 seconds behind. Then Gilles de Ferran in sixth. Marc Blundell is being shown as seventh now, so he's dropped a little bit down the order. Patrick Carpentier, eighth. Ninth place for Fittipaldi. Juan Montoya has come up into 10th position. Guterman is 11th, and PJ Jones is in the final point-scoring position at the moment in 12th place. Has anybody got an answer for Greg Moore, or will he run out of fuel? We've seen him pick up a win before when other cars have run out of fuel. If we go back to Detroit a couple of years ago, that's what happened on that occasion. Now Greg seems to be going very quickly. Last lap was a 27.4, so was this lap. I don't think there's anything slowing Greg Moore down at all. And Andretti, I don't think, has an answer for him this time. He's waiting for Vasser to go through. In fact, he's been through already. Half a second still at an advantage over Dario Franchitti. And as we get into these final 8 laps now, Jeremy, it does look good for Greg Moore, doesn't it? If the fuel concern is okay, if he's got that much methanol in there, he looks set for victory here.
He certainly does. He's looking, he's lapping very consistently at 27.4 again. That's the last 4 laps in a row at 27.4, and he's just inching away from Michael Andretti. The gap now almost 2 seconds as Michael Andretti goes inside the slower car into turn 3. And here is Greg Moore coming off turn 4, and he's looking oh so smooth. It's just 6 laps to go this time around.
Greg Moore came close to winning it last year. This time it looks as though it's going to go his way. And there is the battle between Jimmy Vasser and Dario Franchitti. Vasser on board with him now. Third place for Vasser at the moment. But Franchitti is closing up on the backstretch. I can tell you that he's right behind Jimmy. Or look at the onboard picture from looking in the other direction, and you can see how close Franchitti is to the back of Jimmy Vasser's car. And there's a slower car to deal with as they come down the start-finish straight. Franchitti goes to the inside. This is the battle for third place. Down into turn 1. Oh, a good move from Franchitti. Vasser tried to hold him off, but he just couldn't do it. And Franchitti is up into third position now. So it's Greg Moore leads, Michael Andretti second, Franchitti in third. 5 laps to go.
Fabulous move by Dario Franchitti. You wouldn't think this guy is a relative novice on the ovals, nor that he said himself that he wasn't terribly comfortable on the ovals. Certainly didn't show that there. Great move to pass one of the acknowledged oval masters here, Jimmy Vasser. Brilliant move there into turn 1.
So Vasser has to go settle for fourth place at the moment. He's got a big advantage over the next man on the road. That's Max Papis in fifth. and Gilles de Ferran, who's moved up a little bit. He's now in 6th place, but it looks as though Greg Moore and the Forsyth team have judged this race to perfection, and particularly on the call of pit stops. It looks as though Team Green got it wrong by bringing Franchitti in on that last yellow, because although Dario's moved up to 3rd, he is not going to have enough time, I think, to be able to chase down Michael Andretti and Greg Moore. A 26.8 on that last lap, though, for Dario Franchitti, so he's the fastest man on the track by about 3 or 4 tenths of a second. Greg Moore goes across the line. There goes Michael Andretti, and there goes Dario Franchitti. But it's 2 seconds between Andretti and Franchitti, and there's only 2 laps to go. There's just not enough time for the Scot to be able to close up on the top 2. And surely now, Greg Moore is going to take the win here in Homestead. His teammate Patrick Carpentier still running. He's in 7th place, having just got past Marc Blundell. Blundell seems to be slowing a bit on this last stint, and he might have a little problem. The white flag waves, and the leaders are onto their last lap. Greg Moore about to take the first win of the season. He's got about a mile to go, on board with Michael Andretti in 2nd place. He's too far back, and it's going to be a reversal of last year's race result when Andretti just picked Moore to the line. Here comes Greg Moore. The checkered flag is awaiting the Canadian, and he wins the opening round of the 1999 championship. Andretti 2nd, Franchitti in a closing 3rd place.
Adrian Fernandez won round 2 in Japan. Could Dario Franchitti get a podium finish in Long Beach, California?
Here we go then. Are we ready for the start of this 85 lap race?
Position 2 on the map.
Listening to some radio communication, and here we go then, the start of the Long Beach Grand Prix underway, and Tony Kanaan and Dario Franchitti get underway, but there's quite a lot of delay behind. Are they out of the hairpin cleanly? Yes, they are, and this is the battle down to the first corner. Brian Herter's on the inside. Herter's gone for the lead into turn 1. Great move from Brian Herter. Kanaan's back to 2nd. Dario Franchitti is squeezed back to 3rd, and Max Papis in 4th place. But Brian Herter, who led much of the race here last year, has got in front.
Brilliant move by Brian Herter. It was a fast-paced start there, Tony Kanaan. He wanted to get the field spread out, but Herter was on the ball. He was right tucked in behind Tony Kanaan, took full advantage, break deep into the first corner. Great move. Ooh, you see Dario Franchitti sideways there.
Yeah, Franchitti had it all crossed up in 3rd place, kept it off the wall. He's brushed the wall a few times in qualifying and in the practice sessions this weekend, and he's got to keep it off the walls in the race if he's to survive 85 laps of this demanding track. But it's Brian Herter who leads from Tony Kanaan as they'll come round this time to complete the first lap. Look how close Kanaan is to the back of Brian Herter's car. Franchitti in 3rd, then Max Papis, and then watch out for Juan Montoya in the Ganassi car. The man who's replaced Alex Zanardi with Ganassi. Very aggressive. Oh, and in trouble. That's one of the Forsyth. It's Carpentier. Patrick Carpentier. What does this man need to do to get some luck? He was the first retirement in Japan, and he's the first in trouble here in Long Beach.
And what a great aggressive first lap there from Brian Hurt. He's not known for his aggression, perhaps. Last year, of course, he was beaten here by Alex Zanardi, but a brilliant move on the first lap. And, you know, it's tough to pass on this track. It's very sinuous here through the new section. We're now back onto the old section there from a different direction, and they turn right there at the new turn 7. They're through this turn 8 and 8A. Flat-out kinks to the left, and then they're right onto Seaside Way, and they're up to about 175 miles an hour before they're hard on the brakes again. Tony Kanaan down the inside!
Yeah, he's gone through. Kanaan retakes the lead. Fantastic stuff. Kanaan just judging it to perfection. Good speed down the straight. Good stability under braking. Past the yellow flags where the safety car has been sorting out Patrick Carpentier at the hairpin. But Kanaan's got back in front, and now already beginning to open up a little bit of an advantage over Brian Herter.
Tony Kanaan was leading the race until lap 46 when he crashed on a tight corner.
Oh no! Tony Kanaan!
Tony Kanaan is in the wall. I don't believe it. Our race leader, Tony Kanaan, has crashed. Now, did he get hit?
Nice job anyway.
Getting words from Steve Horn, words of encouragement there. Nice to hear that, Steve Horn saying nice job anyway. But Tony Kanaan, what a shame. He's driven superbly this afternoon. I said he hadn't made a mistake, and now it looks as though he may have done. We haven't seen the coverage, don't know what happened. Could have been other cars involved. We're just looking down at the tarmac there, which is breaking up a bit through there, Jeremy. A little bit of evidence of the track just beginning to break up a touch. Perhaps that's making the grip a little inconsistent through the left-hander. But Tony Kanani's out, and that means Juan Montoya leads. The Colombian is now leading this race, chased by Dario Franchitti. And what about this man? His first season in Champ Car racing, he's only done 2 races, and they've done very little recent street or road course testing. And what an amazing performance from Montoya. There's team manager for Tony Kanaan, that's Steve Horn. Disappointment for him, but Chip Ganassi, we've seen his face so often in our broadcasts, and he is happy man. Full course yellow, and the pits are open. We could see some pit stops here. 39 laps to go as Tony Kanaan walks disconsolately back towards the pit lane. But the full course yellow has been called. 39 laps to go. Now I wonder if they can. Let's go down to Jan Beekers.
Any idea why he got wide there in that corner?
No idea really, Jan. The car was working fine. He was very comfortable with it. I noticed on the TV the track started to break up a little bit there, so maybe that caught him out, but otherwise I don't know.
Up until that point, were you still very concerned about tire wear?
Not really. The tyres were working perfectly. You know, they were at their limit, but that's what we expect from Firestone. And no, the tyres were fine.
Thanks, Steve. Let's get to Gary.
Boy, I tell you what, Jan.
Well, look at that. Montoya's gone out ahead of Franchitti. Great stop from both of them. Good from Montoya, under pressure, having to make a good clean pit stop. And that's really great job from Montoya. I'll tell you what, there are so many mistakes that can be made.
Reset the fuel, reset the fuel.
Being asked by Ganassi to reset the fuel.
Watch for the pace car. The pace car will be out there picking you up somewhere.
And guided by Chip Ganassi all the way here.
Montoya and Franchitti battled each other all the way, but Montoya was leading on the last lap.
It looks as though Juan Montoya from Colombia is heading for his first win in Champ Car racing, and it would be the 4th straight win for the Ganassi team here at Long Beach. What an incredible record, and he really has done the business behind the wheel. Superb drive. Hearing from Chip Ganassi there. Just take it easy, Juan. Don't do anything silly. You've opened up an advantage now already over Dario Franchitti, and he does not need to do anything dramatic. He will see the white flag as he comes out of the hairpin and accelerates down towards the start-finish line. The white flag waves, and Juan Montoya starts his last lap.
Absolutely, there he goes. We saw the slower car of Michel Jourdain pulled off the side of the road next to the hairpin. That's a shame. That was one championship point that Jourdain was looking at. No more. It is PJ Jones that should inherit that position. But here is Juan Montoya, just giving a little bit extra burst to those concrete walls, through that fountain section here, through turn 4, up to this tricky off-camber corner there in turn 5. Inch perfect again, not taking any chances. That's the corner that caught out Tony Kanaan and Cristiano D'Amata. Not so for Juan Montoya. Onto the back straight, seaside way, just over 1 mile to go.
Juan Montoya is heading for victory in Long Beach, his first season of Champ Car racing, only his 3rd race in the championship. He's come into this championship and he has been so impressive. He's got 1 corner to go. The man who has replaced Alex Zanardi in the Ganassi team has picked up where Zanardi left off. He slides it out of the hairpin. Juan Montoya wins his first race in the United States. Brilliant performance today from the 23-year-old Colombian, and what a job from the team. Ganassi, just listen to that radio. Fantastic. The cheers, the emotion from Montoya. He's so controlled normally. Now it's a chance.
You come in the back door. You come in the back
and Franchitti coming along to congratulate him after a well-driven race from these two. Franchitti beaten today, but he holds 2nd place, and very important points, some 15 points for Dario Franchitti. So an important race for him today.
After Montoya's impressive debut win in California, the Honda Reynard team were hoping for a 2nd successive victory.
And here we go then, getting ready for the start of round 4 of the championship. Juan Montoya leads the field for the first time, his first ever pole position in only his 4th race in the Champ Cars. He's made a break and it's green flag, and Montoya leads on the first lap from the white car of Helio Castroneves, an unfamiliar car perhaps to some, although he's run well up in many of the races so far this year. That Lola chassis in 2nd place has been in superb form. Then it's Franchitti in 3rd place with Paul Tracy, his teammate, next up, and then Greg Moore, and no, sorry, that was Patrick Carpentier, his teammate, making up a place.
And PJ Jones here trying to get past Carpentier. Good dice there. There is Max Pappies who gets past the car of Adrian Fernandez, the winner in Motegi just a couple of weeks ago.
So, good start from Juan Montoya then, capitalising on his first ever pole position on an oval. But this oval, they say, more like a road course, as PJ Jones has a little look at getting past Greg Moore. Now, the drivers say overtaking is going to be almost impossible in this low downforce setup with the cars. But are they going to be right? Is it going to be easier than they think? They're taking it carefully. The early laps, the tyres are still coming up to temperature, and we've found throughout the practice days that it takes some 4 or 5 laps before the tyres are fully up to temperature. But having said that, PJ Jones is the man who looks most likely to overtake in these early laps.
Speaking to Michael Andretti just this morning after the warm-up, he didn't really know what to expect this afternoon. He has been a proponent of this switch to the smaller wings. He says it's going to bring more the element of the driver. The real talent of the driver is going to be allowed to shine more with this configuration. But he really didn't know what to expect this afternoon. He thinks he's got a good car. He thinks he's going to be able to make his way towards the front of the grid. We'll see.
Juan Montoya has an advantage of about a second, and then there's another 1.5 seconds back to Paul Tracy. It is, in fact, in third, ahead of Dario Franchitti in fourth place. Mark Blundell fifth, ahead of Patrick Carpentier in sixth position. But watch Juan Montoya. He has been so impressive again this weekend. He said everybody warned him about this place. You're just actually riding on board at the moment with his teammate, Jimmy Vasser. But just going back to Montoya, he said everybody warned him about this place. They said, after he'd gone well early in the year, well, you just wait till you get to Nazareth. That is a completely different deal. And he said, I love this place, it's great, I'm really enjoying it. He says you can hustle a car like you can on a road course. He doesn't seem to be intimidated by the proximity of the walls, and in practice and in qualifying, he has been breathtaking with his commitment. Meanwhile, though, his teammate there, Jimmy Vasser, as you mentioned, Jeremy, in confident mood this morning. Jimmy himself running in 11th place, and he was the race winner here last year.
There is Juan Montoya, the race leader. Right ahead of him, though, is Robbie Gordon, who is running last in this race. And ahead of him is Alonso Jr. This is where the interest really comes. Now they come out to the traffic. How are they going to be able to get through? There is Montoya going inside. Robbie Gordon into turn one. Right behind the both of them is Helio Castro-Neves.
This is where the 1 mile oval gets very tight and demanding as the leaders start to pick their way through traffic. And that's something they'll be doing for the rest of the afternoon. And this is where perhaps somebody can gain an advantage. If the leader gets caught out a little bit by somebody moving over when he didn't expect it, the second or third place driver might be able to sneak through and take the place. Juan Montoya now coming up to lap Alonso Jr. Now, Alonso Jr. is back in the race. Remember, he suffered a bad accident in the season opener and broke his ankle. He's racing with a carbon fibre cast on his ankle, and that seems to be fine. He doesn't report any troubles in the car. The only troubles are with the car, which has not been performing at all well this weekend.
No, it hasn't. He's been struggling all weekend with that car, and he was fast in a morning warm-up, but you know, he's stuck there in line. He's sitting behind Scott Pruitt, and really there he pulls to the inside to try and essay to make a pass. It's not on at that stage, and he has to tuck back into line, and therefore behind him, so do Juan Montoya, and right behind Montoya there is Helio Castro-Neves. Look at those two.
But look, oh, somebody's lost it. And it's one of the team green. I think it's is it Tracy? Tracy has lost it coming. No, it is. Let's just check. It is Paul Tracy as they come down the pit straight. Paul Tracy's lost it. He was in third place, but he hasn't done any damage, and he's going down the pits lane to get back into the race. The course has gone yellow, no surprise there. The pits are closed for the moment, and it's very early in this race. Only 11 laps completed. It's unlikely we'll see anybody come in unless one or two at the back might decide to take advantage of it. We'll have to wait and see. Paul Tracy, this is the replay then, and that in fact is the same place that we've seen a number of cars getting into trouble this weekend.
That's the only place we've seen cars get into trouble, funnily enough, Ben. It's coming off that final corner there and up the hill there, up the slight incline towards the start-finish line.
With 81 laps to go, Montoya was holding on to the lead by the skin of his teeth.
Now then, look at this. Another chance for Castroneves. Oh, then it's Blundell trying to get up to speed. And Castroneves has got out the inside, and he's taken the lead from Montoya. Great. He snatched the advantage there, and they still got to make pit stops. Oh, and Helio just defending the inside, and Jones has got round the outside into second place.
Fantastic stuff, and they wheel, bang, bang, wheels there. BJ Jones and Montoya. Montoya tries to dive down the inside of Beresford, and BJ Jones has lost it.
Jones, who moved up in a second, has lost control, and he's going to go yellow, and that brings out the yellow flag. He's trying to get going on PJ. PJ, you were going so well, and he gets back on the track. The safety crews do go out on track, though, just in case there's any debris. They throw the yellow as soon as there's a problem on these kind of tracks. Now, what this will do is set us up for a tremendous battle in the pit lane now. They are due to make their stops, and we will see the other leaders coming into their pits to make their stops. It hasn't helped Mark Blundell a great deal because, of course, he's only just made his stop.
No, it's killed Mark Blundell's chances in this race because he made that stop. He is now 2 laps down, and these other guys can make their pit stops under green. He'll gain one of those laps back when the leaders do come in for their pit stop. But bad luck there by Mark Blundell, and again, great strategy by the race leaders. They were able to run their fuel length window longer than everybody else, and here is that move there. There is Jones and Montoya, and they touch wheels there, and too late on the brakes. There is PJ Jones, and around the car goes. He did a good job actually to keep it off the wall.
That was amazing, wasn't it? And whether they actually touched wheels, it was hard to see whether there was actually contact. There nearly was. Great racing. Here we have another look at it again. Red car, Montoya, remember, there. And coming through, this was when Helio got past. Helio went down the inside. You saw how wide Montoya went. Helio got up the inside, good piece of driving, and then of course PJ got a good run on Montoya coming out of turn number 2. Montoya was actually quite quick, had a little look at getting down the inside of Helio, couldn't do it, and PJ went right round the outside of him at turn number 3. But here we go. This is the critical pit battle now of this race. Hogan Racing versus Ganassi. The pressure is on these Hogan boys.
Certainly is, and this crew led by Simon Morley, a former Formula 1 mechanic, and the crew were doing their very best. Helio Castroneves, a little bit of impatience there, and that will cost a couple of vital seconds.
Yes, and look at that behind him. Another car was coming out at the same time as Montoya gets away cleanly. Good stop from Montoya. He gets out in front of Helio Castroneves, and in fact Alex Barron's car has got out between them. Now Barron was further down the order in 12th position, but interesting, there's a car between them now as they come out of the pits.
Absolutely right, and Alex Barron there, he'd worked so hard to stay on the lead lap before that pit stop, and tremendous work there by the Target Chip Ganassi crew. Once again gets Montoya out into the lead.
Montoya's pit crew had done the business for him, so with 3 laps to go it was time to repay the favour.
Just 3 laps, leave 3 laps to go now, 3 miles for Juan Montoya to take his second win in a row in the Champ Kart Series. He's come in as a rookie, had no idea what racing on ovals was all about. He went to his first oval at Homestead to start the season, and he's going to come through to win on his 3rd visit to an oval, but his first ever visit to a 1-mile oval. I tell you what, 12 months ago, when Jimmy Vasser won this race, it was the first win for Ganassi on any 1-mile oval, and here they are. Their new boy is going to do it all over again here today.
And I think Jimmy Vasser's had a pretty good car this weekend. He thought he had a good race car, but the traffic situation and the fact that he made his second pit stop again too soon, and he was now back down in 11th place. But here we are, just 1 lap to go for Juan Montoya.
Here he comes, the Colombian, the 23-year-old from Bogota in Colombia, is going to take his second win in the Champ Car Series. Back-to-back victories for Juan Montoya, for the Ganassi racing team. He comes up to cross the line. He's done it again. Wow, fantastic. This guy is a real star. Second place for PJ Jones, his best ever finish by a long, long way. And on the podium for the first time in well over a year, Paul Tracy gets a decent result in the end. Cristiano De Mata, the best ever finish for Toyota in 4th. Adrian Fernandez 5th. Michael Andretti 6th, ahead of teammate Christian Fittipaldi.
It's round 5 from Rio de Janeiro. Can Dario Franchitti peg Montoya back, or would the Colombian rookie sensation make it an incredible 3 wins in a row?
Here we go then, building up to the start of the Kart Rio 200. Round 5, of the 1999 FedEx Championship Series. It is the battle between Fittipaldi on the inside, Franchitti on the outside, and here we go, the green flag, and surely this time it's a clean start as they run down towards turn one for the first time in this race. Watch out for Montoya. Montoya's on the dirt on the inside. Montoya's going for the lead. Montoya into the lead. Has he gone in too fast? No, a beautiful passing manoeuvre from Juan Pablo Montoya, and it's Fittipaldi in second.
And look at the lead he's stretched out. From the second row, he's jumped out to a huge lead. And that's going to be one of the tightest packs I've seen on the start in a kart race for a long time. Everybody in there. Montoya brilliant to the lead, Fittipaldi in second, and Dario Franchitti in third.
If he ever gets an opportunity, if he ever sense there's a chance to overtake, you just sense that Juan Montoya will always take it. He never holds back if there's an opportunity to go past. Look at this gaggle. Somebody getting a bit sideways.
Junior, a little bit of sideways movement there. Now remember, Robbie Gordon started at the back in the Toyota. Remember, Japan, he started way at the back, and within 8 laps, he was all the way up to about 10th position. So watch out for maybe a hard charge from Gordon, who had problems in the qualifying with his Toyota. He could be coming up through this grid, but at the moment, Montoya's got it all.
We're looking back from Tony Kanan's car. He is in 5th place, and you're looking back at Jimmy Vasser in 6th place. 2 Reynard Hondas, both of them featured well last year. And in fact, the Honda Power always seems to do well around this track, has lots of tractability and performance out of these slower corners. On board now with Jimmy Vasser, and he runs in 6th position. Let me just quickly run through the order then. It's Montoya, Fittipaldi, Franchitti, the top 3. 4th, De Ferran. 5th for Tony Kanaan. 6th for Jimmy Vasser. 7th is Greg Moore. Now, Moore's made a good start because he started down in 10th place, and he's always featured at this track. So watch out for the Canadian. His teammate Carpentier is 8th, Paul Tracy 9th, and Tarso Marquez in the Penske lies in 10th.
Well, it's interesting to see that Carpentier has managed to stick with his teammate and go up to pick up those positions, because he started alongside Greg Moore on that row. Tarso Marquez is probably the one who has failed the most at this point, dropping back to the 10th position. And PJ Jones has now worked his way up into 13th. Watch out for Adrian Fernandez, though, who was back in 17th. Didn't have the qualifying run he would like, but we know he's strong on these ovals.
But also watch out for Michael Andretti, who started a long way down the order, in fact in 15th position. He's in 16th at the moment, as you can see from the graphic in top left-hand corner of the screen. This is a replay of the start. Now, Guy, just talk us through Montoya's move on the inside.
Montoya's down on the inside. He's on the inside of row 2. He ducks even lower. Franchitti comes down to try and fit in behind Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi goes up to block Franchitti, and then Montoya just slips down the inside. And amazingly, they all get in line and get through turn 1 safely. But a fantastic start for Montoya, which has given him now a 1.83 second lead.
Remarkable, as you say, and once again, the exuberant Colombian who puts so much energy and effort into his driving and yet is so smooth with it, has grabbed the initiative in the early stages of this race. Bit of movement on Franchitti's car. You can see how hard he's trying in the slipstream, but of course he's got that problem that he is in the slipstream. He's in the dirty air behind the black Swift of Christian Fittipaldi, whereas Juan Montoya has clean air. He's got the opportunity to make the break.
The thing now for these two guys, Fittipaldi and Franchitti, they need to hook up and they need to chase down Montoya as a pair. They'll be quicker as opposed to battling each other, because that's just costing them time. And of course Montoya is able to stretch his lead, and that's exactly what Montoya wants. He wants to see these guys fighting. You see them coming down the main straightaway in the line. You see the guys try and break the draft. Franchitti and Fittipaldi need to hook up and play together to try and catch up with Montoya. I should point out that Gilles de Ferran is the first of the Goodyear cars. He is in 4th position overall.
Pretty fast lap times they're doing as well. Average speed 167.995 miles per hour from Montoya on that last lap. And that, with a full tank of fuel, would still have put him somewhere like 20th place on the grid. So that's pretty impressive from Montoya. He's under the 40-second barrier and the fastest man on the circuit.
Montoya had looked comfortable until a slow pit stop handed the initiative to Franchitti and Fittipaldi.
And now our leader, Montoya, in the pits, and Fittipaldi didn't follow him in. So Christian will lead a lap. No bonus points for that, but of course, certainly the pleasure of leading as the crew go to work, taking their time.
He's putting on that visor. No, he's given up with the visor. Look, he tried it. He took it off the pole, but he's thought to himself, there's no way this is going to work. Just covering up what is already a mess, and it probably doesn't make it any better at all. Away he goes, a great clean stop again from Montoya, again showing that his inexperience in this form of racing really doesn't seem to matter as Christian Fittipaldi comes in. He's got a back marker ahead of him in the pit lane there as well, so that could be crucial. He does get into the pits cleanly, and now the Newman-Haas crew go to work. He was just over a second behind Montoya when he came in, and that means Franchitti now is in the race lead.
And it also means that Montoya is getting this information over the radio, and he's got to put in a quick lap now to try and make up from that difference. Oh, a good stop by the Newman-Haas team, and Christian Fittipaldi is out and underway again. Franchitti, our new leader, he's going to have to pit soon, and then Max Papis could be our new leader.
With 6 laps to go, Montoya was looking unbeatable.
Montoya has driven away again, and it could well be that Franchitti was just hindered a little bit in his attempt to keep up with that gear change.
With that gear change problem, and the fact that Montoya went really early this time, down the middle of the back straight. Great tactics by Montoya to change each time we've had a restart where he goes on the gas.
Yeah, pulling away again, Montoya. Look at that. He's opened up an advantage that should see him safe now with some 7 laps to go. 5 laps to go, in fact, as they go across the line this time. The laps passing by extremely quickly there. Christian Fittipaldi. He started on his first ever pole position, but unless something very peculiar happens, he is not going to win his first race here this afternoon. It's been a good start to the season, though, for the Brazilian. He finished in 9th place in Homestead, 3rd in Japan, 5th in Long Beach, 7th in Nazareth, and a 3rd place here would certainly keep him up there in the overall championship. But Montoya driving real perfectly again, right out to the concrete wall, and it looks as though, barring disaster, he should have wrapped this one up.
Montoya looking very, very strong. Dario's got a little bit of a gap between himself and Christian right now. Christian needs to worry a little bit about Max Papis, who's looking awfully strong. And Montoya, he's stretched that lead to 1.5 seconds, I'd say, by now. Tony Kanaan also having a great run in the 44 McDonald's car, trying to get into the podium finishes. And as you mentioned, Christian is probably one of the best starts to a season he's had in his career in kart, with 2, if he gets it today, 2 third-place finishes on the podium. That's more than he's done in previous seasons.
That's right, so Christian Fittipaldi can be well pleased with the start of this season. Certainly been a lot better than for his teammate Michael Andretti. The last couple of races have not gone at all well for him. 3 laps to go then, and Juan Montoya is heading for a hat-trick of victories. And what does this tell you about not only the driver but the team? Reliability has always been tremendous for the Ganassi team. Today they've seen a problem. They had Jimmy Vasser go out. Very uncharacteristic to see a mechanical retirement for one of these cars, but for Montoya the car has run absolutely faultlessly in these last 3 races.
Oh, big wobble there by Montoya coming out of that turn. That was a close moment for him.
Yeah, very close. In fact, he's doing very quick times into the 38s, the only driver into the 38-second bracket. Everyone else just in the 39s, and that shows you just how hard he's still pushing.
Pushing it very, very hard at this point. We saw what happens when you push it that hard. 2 to go. Montoya's probably got a huge smile on his face at this point, listening for all sorts of noises coming from the car and hoping he can make it 3 in a row. And I think as a rookie, he'll be the first person to have done that.
Alex Zanardi never won this race. He came close last year when that battle with Greg Moore was decided in just the closing laps when they came up to lap Arndt Meyer. Jimmy Vasser has never won at this track either. But Ganassi looks set for victory here today in Brazil. Just 1 more lap for the Colombian, and he is going to score a hat-trick of victories in the early season. What a way to start his Champ Car career. He comes up through turn number 2 along the backstretch, building up the speed once again to just over 215 miles per hour. The car has behaved impeccably this afternoon, and he has driven superbly. He comes out of the final corner, and Juan Montoya is going to do it. The championship leader coming into this race is going to extend his championship lead, and Juan Montoya makes it a hat-trick of wins. The Ganassi team celebrate down in pit lane, and this boy is a real revelation in the 1999 season.
With wins for Michael Andretti, Paul Tracy and Gilles de Ferran in rounds 6, 7 and 8, the competition was getting intense. It's round 9 in Cleveland.
They're in position to take the green flag. They accelerate out of this chicane, get themselves back into side-by-side formation, and then the start of the 100 laps will be underway. And we wait for it to go green. It is it's green, and away they go. Somebody was in trouble at the back. Montoya gets going, and he's clean into the first turn, but will the rest of them make it? A little bit of bumping and boring, but it looks pretty good.
It was Robbie Gordon who got hit sideways at the first one. That's Brian Herter who spun out. He qualified in 4th place, and Herter already a spinner.
And we've got cars on the move. Paul Tracy getting past Roberto Moreno. Good start that from Paul Tracy. Montoya is our race leader. Where is Franchitti? He's a bit further down the field. Castroneves trying to go around the outside of a gaggle of cars. He started well down the order as well, remember. So Castroneves starting 17th, trying to find some places. And Tracy has got himself up into 4th position. He started down in 8th.
A tremendous start there. There's Max Papis there who can move around the outside of PJ Johnson, trying to get back in the line there for turns 7 and 8. This is the east end of the racetrack. Very quick corner once they're properly up to speed, which are really not at that stage in race. But look at Montoya, already a pretty good gap over Gilles de Ferran.
A pretty good gap, a huge gap. It's not even 1 lap yet. There's Franchitti. He's right behind Maurizio Guterman, looking for a way past as we have side-by-side action. Looked like Christian Fittipaldi trying to get a place back. He lost some places at the start. And across the line, at the end of the first lap, Montoya leads. Franchitti down the inside of Guterman. Has he made the move stick? Yes, he has. He didn't go in too quick. You will see some people trying that move and then running a bit wide on the exit. But I think Franchitti just judged that right, and he got past Guterman safely. And look at Tracy. Paul Tracy in the other Team Green car here, right behind Michael Andretti.
Great stuff there. And other people on the move. Tony Kanaan moved up 6 places from 20th to 14th. Alonso Jr. right behind him. But there is that battle there. That is Michael Andretti holding on to 3rd place, his best qualifying effort of the season. And behind him is Paul Tracy. But there in trouble then is Michel Jourdain Jr.
Yeah, Jourdain, he qualified 20th. That's one of his best starting slots of the year, but he looks as though he's thrown that away already with a quick spin at turn 3, but he keeps it running. No problems. We don't need to bring out the yellows. So there goes Michael Andretti running in 3rd position. We've got some of the cones and tyres that mark the apexes of the corner have been knocked onto the track. That is turn 3, I think, where Jourdain went off. Now that could cause a yellow, because that's obviously a problem.
And also in trouble once again is Elio Castroneves. He's had engine problems all weekend. He had a problem this morning. They had to change the engine after the warm-up, and he was very slow coming out of the final chicane and lost a couple of places. He comes out of turn 1, and he's also passed by 3 or 4 other cars. Clearly problems for Elio Castroneves.
And Tracy's just got past Andretti, so Tracy's on the charge. Paul Tracy moves up into 3rd place. There he is, left-hand side of your picture, the Canadian. Paul Tracy, a winner this year already in Milwaukee. Really on a roll now. He's picked up his season. Last year was a disaster, and now he's got himself into 3rd place. And he goes chasing after Gilles de Ferran, who's lying 2nd, and Juan Montoya, who leads this race by 1.8 seconds after just 2 laps. Montoya flying up front at the moment, but there's a very long way to go, and physically this race is extremely demanding.
Dario Franchitti's race ended with 81 laps to go, and he was forced to retire with throttle problems. Montoya was maintaining his lead, and then the heavens opened up.
And Juan Montoya now is back in front in this race.
And Michael Andretti is in the pit lane once more. It really is raining quite hard. Now there is Michael, splash of fuel there. That's wet tyres going on, I think, for Michael Andretti.
Right, change of tactics for Michael
Yes.
Andretti. Wet tyres, you're spot on there, Jeremy. Well spotted. And he goes out on wets. Alonso Jr. is into the pits. De Ferran is coming in as well, and they are going to put wets on. Now, this is crucial. Lap times have slowed down considerably over the last lap or so. You're looking at, oh, look how slippery it is as he comes out of the pit lane. Montoya coming in as well. So this is all change once again as the rain comes down. Listen on the radio, Chip Ganassi talking to Juan Montoya. And what a shame for Moreno. That was the worst timing, of course, if they put Moreno on wets. Just think of the advantage he'd be in at the moment.
Moreno has not come into the pits. He does go past in the lead of the race. Paul Tracy, though, is in the pits in 2nd place. And that is one of the... Patrick Conconti also stays out there. Gilles de Ferran in the pits.
Out comes Juan Montoya then on his wet tyres and accelerates down the pit lane. Now, Andretti lost a lot of time having to come into the pits. Moreno is now in front in this race. Now, here is a spin from Gilles de Ferran. Did he manage to avoid hitting anything? Yes, he did. But then, did he manage to get it turned around? He's in the pits, he's had his wet tyres fitted, and he's back out again, but that lost him some ground compared to Juan Montoya, obviously.
Fascinating strategy here. If I look across to the west there, the sky is a lot brighter, and all at the same time, the track will dry. Look, it's pretty wet now, look at it, very, very wet, but it's pretty humid here. There is a little bit of a breeze, and the track, I think, will dry out fairly quickly.
Look at PJ Jones spinning there. He lost that really under braking. That was a slightly strange spin. Oh, only just missed. I'm not sure who that was. It might have been Richie Hearn, who just avoided him. Now, here is our race leader, Roberto Moreno, on slicks. He's on slicks in these conditions, and you can see for yourself how difficult that must be. The track is slick on line as well, where they've been laying rubber down all weekend, and Moreno trying to hold on to this guy. He's got Robbie Gordon breathing down his neck as they cross the line this time. Moreno is race leader. Gordon has been lapped, so he's not a challenge for the race leader this race. Meanwhile, Brian Herter comes out of the pits. Oh, and there's been a big accident there.
That's Jimmy Vasser, I think.
Yes, one of the Ganassi cars with Tony Kanaan nearer you in the McDonald's car, but one of the Ganassi cars is it. Oh, and Marquez goes off in the same place. Tarso Marquez crashes in exactly the same spot. It's on the exit of turn number 8. Look at the rain coming down. These guys on slick tyres.
Unbelievably, the yellow flags are not yet out. This is absolutely insane. There's 2 cars in the wall there at the fastest corner on the racetrack, and it's still green flag conditions. That I do not understand.
It's Vasser. We have confirmation that it's Vasser. It's not Juan Montoya who's been battling for the lead in this race. It is Jimmy Vasser up there. And just look, still, now it's yellow. Now it is full course yellow at last. Presumably the yellows were being waved up at that corner. Let's see if we can see what happened here. Well, there was somebody...
That was Gugelmin. There's a Hollywood car of Mauricio Gugelmin there who just about got away with it, but those 2 there heavily into the tyres. That is Jimmy Vasser and the McDonald's car there of... Poor Tony Kanaan, a heavy hit for both of those 2.
Look at the rain coming down now. Moreno's been off as well, apparently, and there's Paul Tracy spinning, and there Gilles de Ferran, and he's on wets. Gilles de Ferran's on wets, so shows you how slippery it is now. Now, here's... Oh, Fittipaldi spun in the pit lane. Fittipaldi spun in the pit lane.
Well, you know, it's so treacherous. You can see he is on slick tyres still. Absolutely treacherous conditions.
It's horrible out there, isn't it?
Adrian Fernandez lost control of his car on lap 65, which brought out the full course yellow.
Here we go. We're getting ready to go green. De Ferran gets on it once again. Look at the restart from Montoya. Brilliant. He is so quick on these restarts, and Montoya's going for it, as you would expect. Montoya goes for it down the inside into turn 1, but has he carried too much speed in? Perfectly judged, but De Ferran on the exit tries to get him on the way out of turn 1, and they are side by side as they accelerate through the kick up towards turn 3, and a restart again from Juan Montoya that would make you think that he's been doing rolling starts throughout his career instead of standing starts in Formula 3000 over the last few years. Absolutely brilliant. Couldn't have done it any better. And now Gilles de Ferran's got to watch out because Michael Andretti's right behind.
And you know, we saw last week in Portland, the first couple of laps of green when the tyres are not up to temperature is a problem for the Goodyear runners. It was for Gilles de Ferran last week, and apparently so here right now as well. Look at Michael Andretti sliding there, and there goes Paul Tracy taking full advantage. Great move by Paul Tracy. Oh, sliding wide there.
Well, this is great. Look at that. Michael gets back at Paul Tracy. Tracy was too wide. He got on the slippery stuff, and Michael comes back at him again. Now Tracy has a think about it into turn 9, but Alonso Jr. right behind him will also be looking for an opportunity. Montoya goes across the line as race leader. Gilles de Ferran crosses 2.4 seconds behind in second. Then it's Michael and Robbie Gordon trying to get past Alonso Jr. And that's for position. Robbie is flying here today, and Robbie Gordon has just moved up into 5th position in that Toyota-powered Reynard.
Brilliant drive by Robbie Gordon. He's had a couple of spins here there, though. There, being right behind him is Alonso Jr. trying to get that place back again. Brilliant restart there by Robbie Gordon. And now what can Alonso Jr. do? He has not been competitive this season. He is in the Lola chassis this weekend. This is what, the 3rd or 4th race he has run the Lola. And finally, they have a pretty good handle on that car. It's working a lot better for him than it was the first few times that they ran it. What can he do?
I said Robbie was in a Reynard. Of course, he's in a Swift now because he changed around a few races ago. So that's the yellow and blue car there. Robbie Gordon in the Toyota-powered Swift, running extremely competitively at the moment. and he's obviously enjoying these conditions. In fact, Robbie's had some good runs here in the past at the Cleveland track, and now he's down the inside of Tracy. Oh, and he's made the move beautifully. Beautiful move from Robbie Gordon, and that puts him up into 4th position now. Now, can Tracy come back at him into turn 1? I don't think so. Not quite close enough. Robbie defending into turn 1, but may have taken too much speed in. Gets on the power, accelerates cleanly, and Tracy gets back alongside it. This is racing. This is motorsport at its best. And Tracy now, I think, oh no, not quite. Gordon takes the wide line in, and they just both sneak through turn 3 with Gordon still ahead in the battle.
Brilliant stuff. This is wonderful. This is what Champ Car racing is all about. Wheel-to-wheel action, no quarter, arsenal given. Great no-holds-barred racing. Fabulous to watch the crowd here on its feet, cheering away here in the grandstands. Great stuff.
Well, Montoya has built up a 4.2-second lead, so perhaps again, as you say, those Firestones working better than the Goodyears in these conditions. We saw it the other way around in the damp conditions. Now perhaps Firestone, the advantage swings back to them, and Michael Andretti bearing down on De Ferran.
Montoya kept the lead to claim victory number 4 of the season.
Great job today, pal. Great job. You're the man. That was a hell of a job today.
Christian Fittipaldi won round 10 in Wisconsin, but could Dario Franchitti take some points from Montoya in Toronto?
Out of the final corner, this will lead them through to the start-finish line. Gilles de Ferran on the inside, the green flag waves, and away they go. Franchitti on the outside, de Ferran on the inside. Franchitti's been hit by Vassar, but he collected it, got it back together again, stays in 2nd place. Vassar moves up into 3rd. Christian Fittipaldi up to 4th. Michael has made a dreadful start. Michael's way back in about 6th position, and he's under attack from Greg Moore.
Canan coming up too in a McDonald's car. A great start by Christian Fittipaldi. Now Franchitti challenges for the lead in turn 3. He's able to do it. Watch out for that slippy concrete, everybody, especially on these colder tyres the first time around.
Great pass by Dario Franchitti, absolutely perfect, lined up Gilles de Ferran.
Getting by Michael Andretti on the inside.
Yes, so Tony Kanaan makes up a place, and Michael Andretti made a dreadful start. Often we don't see Michael Andretti make such a bad start. It's Christian Fittipaldi, his teammate, who started in 5th place, who got away much, much better. He's in 4th position, but watch out for Dario. Dario, who was on pole position here 2 years ago, his first ever pole in Champ Cars. He lost it at the first corner in contact with Bobby Rahal. Last year, he led 76 laps and dominated the race until a brake problem put him into a spin. Look at this. This is Andretti versus Kanaan. Andretti on the inside, Kanaan on the outside. How do you squeeze 2 cars through there? I do not know, but they're still side by side as they go down the backstretch.
Michael Andretti on board here. Watch for Kanaan down the right-hand side. You'll see how Michael's favouring it because it gives him the inside line going into 3. But Kanaan's got the better grip for braking on the outside line there.
Oh, it's great stuff. And
Montoya's trying to get by Castro Neves. He lost 1 position at the start, dropped back to 9th where he runs now, but he's battling with Castro Neves in that Lola.
Yes, that's right, and he's made up that position, but he's still behind Kanaan. So Castro Neves, in fact, had got past Montoya, and now Montoya's got back past Castro Neves. So these two are having a good dice at the moment, and it's Montoya who's got himself into 9th position again. Let's take another look at the start. What happened to Michael? He's on the 2nd row, and Christian got down the inside of Michael as Dario got hit from behind by Vassar.
Now, the thing is, although Dario got tapped, as we take a look at Dario's now move on Gilles to take the lead on the first lap, has it affected Dario at all? It may have a very slow puncture, it may have a slight bit of damage, which in this, if it costs you a 1/10 of a second, it's so competitive, you go from first to last in a hurry. Dario's main thing now on these opening laps with this clear track is to really try and build up a bit of a lead.
Yes, that's what he's got to do, make the break. Meanwhile, look at that, that was Mimo Gidley in the white and blue car, trying to get past Cristiano D'Amata, side by side, down towards turn number 3. 2 rookies, these two, and they get through safely, and unfortunately Gidley couldn't quite make the move stick, so Cristiano D'Amata, who lies in 14th place, with Mimo Gidley 15th. Behind them, it's Maurizio Gutermin in 16th. But Dario Franchitti showing the sort of class and the sort of form that we expected earlier this year. He's yet to win a race this season, and he's making the break in the early laps here, very early stages of the race in Toronto. Look at the lead he's already developed. It was 2.6 seconds last lap, now it's 3.4 seconds, so he gained 0.8 of a second on just that last lap, as Kanaan also had another look. Yes,
He got it. Tony Kanaan down the inside of Michael Andretti. He's been fighting for that position the last couple of laps. He's pulled it off, and that will now put Kanaan up into the 7th position.
Great stuff from Tony Kanaan, who needs a good result. And look who's behind them.
Montoya.
It's Juan Montoya, and he's trying to get involved here. We've seen 1 or 2 incidents between Montoya and Andretti this year. Let's hope they can keep it nice and clean as they head on up now. We switch from the onboard with Michael to the onboard camera with Juan Montoya, trying to find just that little bit of space required to squeeze past that Newman Haas Swift.
Interesting run. Honda have won the last 9 temporary road course races. Of course, Montoya in a Honda Ford for Michael Andretti.
Yes, Honda seem to have the edge when it comes to drivability, accelerating out of these sort of corners, these 90-degree corners, although Ford have done a lot of work on it. They've done a lot of extra work on the transient dyno up in Detroit this year. I know the Cosworth boys very happy with the progress that they've made there, and they're hoping that that progress will translate into good race performance here this afternoon. Their top runner at the moment, of course, is Fittipaldi, because he's running in 4th place, the winner at Road America, and he seems to be running very consistently at this stage.
Here's Greg Moore in the Mercedes in the blue and white players car, coming up on Paul Tracy, a fellow Canadian. Good Canadian battle going on. And our leader, Dario Franchitti, trying to stretch his lead, because he knows at this point Montoya had his 2nd worst qualification of the year, and this is a good chance for Franchitti to make up some points in that championship battle as he builds his leads over Gilles de Ferran, Jimmy Vasser, Christian Fittipaldi, Tracy, Moore, Kanaan, Michael Andretti, and then Montoya.
Juan Montoya had started badly but was knocked out of the race when he collided with Jourdain on lap 60. With Montoya out, the only thing that stood between Franchitti and his first win of the season was teammate Paul Tracy.
Up front, Dario Franchitti coming around this time to complete lap number 91. There are 4 more laps to do here in Toronto to finally crack this race, which has seen him score pole position twice, but both times for it to go wrong.
About 7 miles for Dario Franchitti. After not getting the pole, he had said, well, I'll try starting from the outside pole, because starting from pole has not worked well for me. The first one, of course, racing for Hogan in his first year in the kart series, and it was one of Hogan's first poles in a long, long time, and unfortunately tangled together with the retired Bobby Rahal. Last year he started from pole, led 76 laps, brake pedal disappeared from him, and that left it down to Michael Andretti and Alex Zanardi to battle it out. Zanardi went on to win. Christian Fittipaldi, I must say, at this point is closing on Paul Tracy.
He is a little bit closer, isn't he? But it doesn't seem to be consistent enough. He doesn't seem to be able to really close up enough to challenge for that position. And the Canadian crowd are enjoying seeing one of their drivers up there in 2nd place, a potential podium finish for Canada here today. They've seen problems for Greg Moore. They've seen Carpentier struggle this afternoon as well. But Paul Tracy does look as though he's going to be on the podium, and Fittipaldi again another podium here today. 92 laps completed, 3 laps to go. Moreno crosses the line and Max Papis crosses the line, and let's just talk about Max for a moment, because this is going to be one of his best results of the season. He did have a 4th place finish at Rio, which is his best of the year, and a 5th place at Gateway, but this would...
Oh, big trouble for Tony Kanaan.
Oh no,
Had a great run.
he must have made contact, surely, perhaps at the last corner. Looks as though he sideswiped the wall, because it's ripped off the right. Yeah, look, debris, top left of your screen, and Tony Kanaan has hit the wall out of that final corner. He was running in 7th position, or 8th position behind Scott Pruitt, and it looks as though it's all over for the young Brazilian.
And there's so much debris right in the middle of the track. Watch out, Paul, watch out, Paul.
Yeah,
he's run over the debris. They're showing just the local. I'm surprised, because one of these guys could easily rip a tyre. Well, they're going to try and finish this race under green with just 2 to go.
I'll tell you what, Dario ran over some of that stuff. You saw it flicking up, and those are little bits of carbon fibre that are terribly sharp when they if they get stuck into the tyre. Gugelmin! Oh! What's happened to Gugelmin? He's gone down the escape road. He was running in 8th, but he's kept the engine running, and he may not lose too much ground, but of course, remember, they were all so close. He is going to lose a number of places, and he is trying to rejoin. It's not turn 1, it's up at the last part of the circuit, turn number 9 that was, and Gugelmin does rejoin but loses a great many places.
And there's going to be a brand new racing line through the left-hander, turn 11. I would stay tight and on the inside, forget the speed, just stay off the debris for that last lap.
A big scare for Franchitti there as he ran over bits and pieces.
See if he runs tight here. You know, Barry Green probably saying stay tight, stay tight, stay tight. Oh no, he ran out pretty wide.
Not so much debris around at the moment, though. I think that they probably cleared it last time around, and they are onto the last lap. And Dario Franchitti has just got to keep it together for about 1.5 miles now to take his first win of the 1999 season. He looked as though he was going to win at Homestead in the season opener, but they did have a problem there. It looks as though he... Let's just see. He may be losing a little bit of time. We're worried that he may have picked up a slow puncture, but I think it's all right. The car looks okay. It's handling all right, and he's only got to make it round a few more corners.
Yeah, but Paul Tracy is right there. Christian Fittipaldi right there. Oh, my. Moreno in 4th. Pappas in 5th.
He's okay. I'm sure he's all right now. There are just 3 more corners to go. The right up at turn number 9, through turn 10, and through the last right and left that leads on to the start-finish line. Dario Franchitti takes his first win of the 1999 season and kickstarts his championship hopes once again. Paul Tracy takes 2nd place. It's a 1-2 for Team Green. A fabulous day for Barry Green and all the personnel there. And Fittipaldi, winner last week, takes 3rd place. He's on the podium again. Roberto Moreno matches his best of the season with 4th place. Max Papis in 5th place.
Tony Kanaan won the US 500 in Michigan, and Montoya and Franchitti managed top 10 finishes. But how would the Flying Scotsman and the rookie sensation get on in Detroit?
So, up front, it's Juan Montoya and Paul Tracy on the front row. Gilles de Ferran and Dario Franchitti on the second, and we're going to go racing. The green flag waves. Montoya makes a great start. Paul Tracy dives to the inside to cover his cell, and there's contact. Out into the outside goes Papis. Max Papis, who lost out in Michigan, gets punted into the tyre wall at the opening of the race.
He started alongside. Look at the Team Cool Green teammates. They're dancing over 2nd place. Look at Tony Kanaan around the outside there of Gilles de Ferran, and the yellow flags are not yet out. They are here. I don't think they were there. Just a local yellow here in turn 1. That's where our booth is. But what a great start there by Tony Kanaan up into 4th place.
He started in 6th, and you ride on board here with Roberto Moreno, who lost a couple of places there. He started in 5th, but Gilles de Ferran, who started in front of him anyway, is ahead, but so is Tony Kanaan, who started alongside Moreno. It's Montoya from Tracy, from Franchitti, then a gap, then Kanaan, de Ferran and Moreno, and you ride on board with Roberto Moreno standing in for Christian Fittipaldi again this weekend. And we hear that it has gone full course yellow. We've got a safety car out on the track here at turn number 1. That's just opposite our booth. As you ride with Roberto Moreno, there is Max Papis getting out. He cannot believe it. I don't know who he got punted by, but hopefully we'll get a chance to look at the replay in just a moment.
Well, alongside him on the grid was his own teammate, Brian Hurd. Let's look here. They're about the 6th or 7th row there, and there's one of the players' cars there locking up on the inside, outside. Oh, yes. And it was actually Patrick Carponche that slid into Max Papis there, launches Max Papis' right rear wheel. Off he goes to the left. Absolutely nothing he can do about it. And yet more heartbreak for this likeable Italian driver.
On the restart, Montoya was out in front again.
Jump already.
He's on the restart, the green flag, but watch out for Paul Tracy as they come down into turn 1. Now, can they get through turn 1 safely this time? They're single file, remember, on the restart, as opposed to side by side. And look at Franchitti. Franchitti's got a run on his teammate. Now then, these two have had their comings together in the past. Let's hope they can keep it clean. It is possible to go around the outside into turn 3, and it looks as though he thought about it, but decided against it, which is pretty sensible. Blundell has been into the pit. Now, that's a very early stop. Don't know what the problem was there for Mark Blundell. It's a different colour scheme. If you're wondering why I'm saying that's Mark Blundell, don't look for those normal orange and blue colours. He's got a silver, black and red car this weekend just to confuse us. But Blundell's got out of the pits, and up front the battle is between Montoya, Tracy and Dario Franchitti.
And was it incredible again how fast Juan Montoya got through turns 1 and 2 there at the start of the race. Tracy was all over him at the restart, but Montoya pulled away a couple of car lengths through that first turn. It gave him a jump onto that long straight, and then it was up to Tracy to hold off Dario Franchitti. A great restart again from Juan Montoya. He's so fantastic on cold tyres.
We're hearing the problem for Mark Blundell was a puncture, so whether he ran over some debris or perhaps clipped the wall somewhere, difficult to know, but it means that Blundell has rejoined at the back of the pack now. Juan Montoya with the advantage over Paul Tracy, and Dario Franchitti slotted in right behind. Remember, these two Team Green cars finished first and second in Toronto, and it looks as though they're in fine form here again. And we've got a same combination running in the top 4 places here. Would you believe that? Reynard Honda, Reynard Honda, Reynard Honda, Reynard Honda. That's how the top four places. Franchitti's down the inside of Tracy. Oh, they're being careful with each other. They're not doing anything too risky, but Franchitti is desperate to get past Tracy because he can see Montoya is beginning to pull away up front. Franchitti's had a bit of a tough weekend so far. He had a crash in Friday qualifying in his main car, and he went out in the spare car only for the spare car to just stop out on track. So he didn't put in a time at all on Friday afternoon. He managed to dig himself out of that hole in Saturday qualifying, putting it fourth on the grid, and it does look as though Franchitti's able to go that much faster.
Montoya had built up a big lead when Magnussen and Gordon decided to get to know each other a little better. Franchitti snatched the lead when Montoya was forced to take a late pit stop.
And here comes Juan Montoya, because he doesn't need a whole heck of a lot of fuel.
10-4. When that fuel's in, I'm going to tell you to go.
I think they're just going to do a fuel stop. I think they've decided not to change tyres.
Nice and easy. Slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down.
Let's listen up. Listen to the radio. They are changing tyres. They are refueling at the same time. The leaders have gone past. Franchitti takes the lead.
Go!
And away he goes. Away goes Juan Montoya. And it will rejoin. He rejoins with that battle that we've been watching of Vassar and that Moreno Canaan. And Montoya's in the background. Watch out as they all jostle for position. There's Vassar. There is Moreno Canaan. And then Montoya is side by side with Blundell as he goes into turn 3.
It's actually the lap car of Magnussen, and right behind Magnussen there is Mark Blundell, and Magnussen gets out of the way. Good move behind Magnussen, and lets Mark Blundell go through there. And Montoya on cold tyres, don't forget, rejoins the race in 8th position.
Right, so now we really have a race on our hands, because Montoya on new tyres with enough fuel to get through to the end easily and able to run the car flat out, full rich. 17 laps to go, but can he overtake?
With just a few laps to go under a full course yellow, Montoya suffered more bad luck.
Franchitti is reporting on his radio that he thinks he's seen some fluid coming from the pace car, would you believe it or not? He's a little bit concerned about that. No surprises there. I hope there's nothing wrong with the pace car. That really would get a bit silly.
Well, of course, he'll be hoping that the pace car stays out another couple of laps so he doesn't have to go back to green. So pretty good move there by the Team Cool Green there. If he can get another couple of laps of caution, then he won't need to go back to green, and all his worries are over.
Apparently they're going to get another pace car out, so they're going to do a swap of pace cars. There it is, there's the next pace car. It's going to take over. They're doing a relay here of pace cars. They have enough of them. The PPG pace cars always here on hand at the Champ Car races. Beautiful machines, and beautifully coloured by PPG as well. They provide paint finishes for the automobile industry, and they certainly put on a big show with their PPG pace cars at all of the Champ Car events. Franchitti leading them round then. There are just 2.5 minutes before the checkered flag is due to be waved. Oh, and what?
Yeah, I was just going to say, oh, look at that. That is Juan Montoya. He has lost it as well. I was just watching the cars come past the booth here, and Castro Neves went past right behind Tony Kanaan, and look, here we are. Here's a replay.
Oh, he got hit by Castro Neves.
Oh, my goodness. So
he got hit by Castro Neves when they were all weaving around trying to pick up some tyre temperature. Would you believe it? The same place as Gilles de Ferran crashed himself earlier on in this race, and Castro Neves has run into the back of championship leader Juan Montoya. It's all over for the Colombian, who looks set to take an easy win here today.
You know, there'd been some rumours earlier on this season that Helio Castro Neves had been pursued by Chip Ganassi, perhaps even to take over from Jimmy Vassar, even though Vassar has another year on his contract. Well, that won't do his negotiations any good, and in any case, I think Castro Neves probably will stay where he is at Hogan Racing. Oh dear, look, there is the wheel, the left front wheel hanging off that car. You know, if he can keep going around, if he does stay yellow, which he might well do, then if he can just keep that car running in any way, shape or form, he will still pick up a finish. But what a disappointing, what a tragic way to finish the race for those two drivers.
Oh, what a shame. I mean, Helio Castro Neves, it's just a silly mistake, but let's watch from the onboard
now.
now.
Look, he's slowed right down. Why is he slowed right down at that stage? Now he gets on the throttle and then stops again as he gets so close up behind Tony Kanaan. So yeah, there's some jockeying around there, but even so, it's up to the driver behind to keep enough of a gap behind to the guy in front of him. So certainly you have to blame Helio Castro Neves for that incident. You know, it's the guy behind who is guilty in the terms of a nose-to-tail accident, in my book at least. And poor Juan Montoya, that is absolute disaster for him. And of course, with Franchitti, if he wins the race, then in actual fact, Franchitti will move into the lead of the championship then.
That's right, so a major change. That was the replay from onboard Jan Magnussen. And you saw Montoya accelerated and Castroneves accelerated at the same time and then jinked right, but just ran into the back of Montoya's car. It is difficult when they're all following each other so closely and accelerating and braking, as they tend to do when they're warming the tyres up. It's a bit like being stuck on a motorway when the traffic's sort of shunting forwards and backwards, and of course there's no brake lights to be able to watch. Let's go and hear from Juan Montoya, who's now down in pit lane, and we should hear from him in just a moment. I think he's going to catch up with Gary Gerald in just a second. Let's go down and hear from him.
And Juan, what happened there? Hit from behind?
But the pace car came in, and nobody, like, I think car radio the team's really late because nobody said anything to me. And everyone started like going because nobody knew if it was a restart or no. And, you know, everyone went and they braked, I braked, and I don't know, I think it was Castroneves didn't even bother to brake and went straight to the back of me. You know, I think, you know, I don't say anything because I get in trouble again, but.
Well, now that's interesting. That is interesting. The pace car did come in, as we were saying, because there was a problem that it might have been leaking fluid. And the guys who didn't know what was going on, they thought the race was restarting. That's why Montoya dropped back and then accelerated. Yep. That's why Castroneves started to go, but perhaps then Montoya backed off, suddenly realising no one else was going quickly. And that's why Castroneves ran into the back of Montoya. So, ironically, that might all have been set up by that pace car leaking fluid.
Boy, what an embarrassment, basically, that is. And Castroneves, there he is with a wheel hanging off the car, and this race will finish under yellow, which is a great travesty for this big crowd here. What a disappointing way to finish this race. It was really looking to be a thrilling finish, and we've been absolutely robbed of that through just a catalogue of comedy of errors, if you like.
Well, Dario Franchitti's heading for his second win. The checkered flag will await him at the end of this lap.
So Franchitti picks up win number 2, but how would the clearly distraught Montoya react in Lexington, Ohio?
Green flag flies, here we go. Down toward the first turn. So far through that corner, everybody's okay. Oh, could they have gotten it done? Well, in fact, they may have. Through the first set of turns now on this shortened lap, the first lap here at the race. Now down to the bottom section of the cars, beginning to climb back up.
You can see Franchitti pulling away from Herta. Tracy obviously very quick at this stage, having problems trying to figure out how to exercise that superiority over Brian Herta. Brian's much more cautious this year than last year going down into turn 5 on that start.
Looking at Herta and Tracy, Jimmy Vasser was able to drop into 4th place, and there you see Alonso Jr. coming back after a fairly lengthy pit stop.
They were trying to have radio communication problems. They were trying to get it fixed. The only solution they thought was changing his helmet, but now he's already a lap down and out of this race, Paul.
On the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course, if you can't keep on the lead lap, you have a very serious problem. So Alonso Jr. starts with that deficit right out. And he is the only Penske car in competition this weekend.
You can see slots there in front of Juan Montoya. Montoya having a difficult weekend, didn't get a lot of track time because of the rain yesterday. Didn't get the car to his liking, was very fast this morning in warm-up, but very frustrated.
At the end of the first lap, Greg Moore scored in 22nd place, so he begins his climb through the field, starting in 25th, 3 spots forward.
And Mark Lundell is shadowing him. We talked Mark Lundell had qualified 3rd provisionally on Friday. In tech inspection, his car was just a few thousandths of an inch below the 2-inch rule. That is, the outer side pods were just a little lower than they should have been, and they put him back to the last starting position.
Juan Montoya on the pit straight. He's caught up behind Alonso Jr., trying to catch Gil DeFerrin, who has just disappeared around the corner in turn 1. Tony Kanaan, who started 4th, lost a position on the start of the race and has dropped back. Finally, Montoya makes his move to clear Alonso Jr. And look at this fight for 2nd. Tracy moves into 2nd.
That was a brilliant move. He set up Brian Herta perfectly going down the long back straightaway downhill. 190 miles an hour, tried to slipstream to the inside. Brian blocked him there. He went back to the outside, outbroke him on line, aggressively turned across the front of Brian Herta. Great move there by Paul Tracy.
And now Brian Herta has to worry about Jimmy Vasser and Tony Kanaan. Matter of fact, Helio Castro-Neves is sitting just behind and fairly tight to Kanaan as well. Off the carousel, back to the pit straight. 3 laps complete.
And at this stage, you can see him back up behind Brian Herta here. I think Jimmy Vasser's going to try to figure out how to get by the same way that Tracy did, now pulling Tony Kanaan along with him. The Hondas, you've got to keep in mind here now, are first, second, fourth, and fifth. Very strong, great drivability. Now, what Jimmy's got to do coming off this last corner up in turn 2, leading onto the back straightaway, he's got to be close enough to pick up a draft behind Brian, and as they come through the kink, turn number 4 here, he's got to be able to pull down the inside, but I don't think he's got quite a run on him. He's got to really concentrate on this entire lap, setting up Brian Herta to come off that turn number 2 much, much closer than he did that previous lap. Tony's going to obviously try to use the same strategy on Jimmy Vasser.
And while we watch this fight for third, at the front, Franchitti has pulled out 3.3 seconds on Paul Tracy. And there goes Paul Tracy. You can see he's pulled out pretty well on Brian Herta.
And right now, the 2 Team Green cars are nearly 2 seconds quicker than anyone else on the track, with the exception of Castro-Neves and DeFerrin, but they're over a second and a half quicker than those 2 cars. So Team Green obviously has the mechanical grip figured out for this demanding Mid-Ohio circuit, and aerodynamically they are dialed in, and there goes Tony Kanaan through the first corner. A very difficult place to pass. You really have to take a risk there, but Tony managed to do it cleanly. Looks like Jimmy Vasser is having problems coming off the low-speed corners because Tony was able to get that done cleanly.
Franchitti held the lead until lap 56.
So Franchitti off. Tracy stays out. Montoya keeps the pursuit going. Franchitti has to come all the way down to the end of the pits, and Gary Gerald's right there.
This is where races are obviously won and lost when it's tough to pass on the course.
You'll be fine.
This is a couple of laps earlier than we might have thought based on the first stop. Little problem momentarily on the right front. Got it. No wing changes. Franchitti's rolling.
And here comes Montoya as he works on Tracy. Tracy on the inside line down, but he can't hold the position. Will Tracy be in a good position to keep it and come back? No, he can't. Montoya moves into the lead, but both of these cars are due in any moment now. Jimmy Vasser did come into the pits. Routine stop for Vasser. So Montoya gets the pass, but now the pit crews will have to battle it out.
And that was the exact same move that we saw Paul Tracy put on Brian Herta at the beginning of the race.
1 car off. Al Unser Jr. Al Unser Jr. through the gravel pit and up against the tires. Boy, kicked up a lot of dust. And Robbie Gordon is in the pits, and he just came in, and Gordon's out. Still yellow only in that one spot of the race course. Montoya and Tracy both continued on. Still local yellow only. Tracy's not able to challenge Montoya. Here's a replay of Unser Jr. off at turn 1.
Wow, he came into turn 1 hot on the outside, got the brakes locked, and you can tell that, boy, once it went off and got in the marbles, there was no farther changing direction or much loss of speed for that matter. He went off there a ton. Fortunately, the gravel trap helped slow him down a little bit, and double rows of tires helped to lessen the impact.
And the angle of attack also wasn't that bad. Al Unser Jr. climbs out of the car through the fence, and you can do a climb like that, you're obviously okay.
Montoya had built up a huge lead with just a couple of laps to go.
This will be the finish of the 81st lap. 83 the scheduled distance. Montoya through 1. Everybody rich on fuel. They can go as fast as they want. Montoya, though, unchallenged here with 2 to go. Montoya's family is here, his father, his girlfriend. They're all at the track. Most of the drivers now have taken to using motor coaches to stay, especially at a beautiful scenic place like the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, so that they're right there in the paddock, not far from their car. In the paddock here on Friday night, they had the taste of kart at Mid-Ohio for the championship auto racing auxiliary carriage. Every one of the hospitality units put out some sort of refreshment, food. All the chefs went to work. It was a great evening.
Great layouts, and we must add that one of the hospitality areas, specifically Honda,
white flag, one to go,
had their chefs and crew dressed up in Gilligan's Island outfits, since their whole theme was South Pacific seafoods, and it was pretty riotous to see.
The fans here had a good time with it. Final lap for Juan Montoya. Tracy came across the line 11 seconds behind. Franchitti, as he came across the line, was really not in a challenging position on Tracy. Jimmy Vasser 14 seconds back.
And Paul Chip Ganassi doing some cheerleading for Jimmy Vasser. He'd like him on this last lap to be able to somehow get by Franchitti and deprive him of one more of those precious championship points.
Well, that in fact is a possibility at this point. Montoya is going to encounter some slower traffic down as he gets to the lower elevations of the course. This turns him back up the hill and back up toward the pit area.
He'll just lay back here, Paul. He's got such a big lead. He's not going to take any chances or push.
Juan Montoya on his way to his very first win on a natural road course, and his first win since Cleveland.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Flag
You're
flies.
the man. Great job today driving. You did a great job driving today.
Montoya, his fifth win of the year. They're going to take it back to that battle for second, see if it indeed is one. And it's not, and there comes Jimmy Vasser across the line as well. Vasser's going to finish it in fourth. Now back a little further. Greg Moore, Robbie Gordon, that whole group lined up. There's Andretti and D'Amata. They come through the pace. Moore is trying to get on top of Gordon, coming to the finish, and he can't do it. So the race is run. Montoya takes the win by 10.93 seconds over Paul Tracy, followed by Franchitti, Vasser, Pappas, and Gil de Ferran.
Montoya's win in Ohio had equaled Nigel Mansell's record for wins by a rookie. Could he sweep aside Mansell's record in the Windy City?
26 cars all lined up for the start of this new race at the Chicago Motor Speedway. We're in the Cicero suburb of Chicago itself. We've got railway lines and roads on either side of the track, but we're focused right now on this new 1 mile oval. Max Papis and Mark Blundell on the front row together as they accelerate out of turn, and it's a yellow. Yeah. Papis went a little bit too quickly.
Yeah, he did. The pace was very slow through turns 3 and 4 there, and Max Papis trying to steal a march on the field. He jumped on the throttle there, had a huge jump coming off the corner, and that's not the way it works on these oval tracks. Jim Swintel, the official starter of karts, he sat down with those front row qualifiers yesterday afternoon, and that's exactly what I told them not to do.
Just analyse the race. It is a 225 lap event. Maximum speed's about 200 miles an hour at the end of the straights, but there's a lot of braking into the turns, and so they're down to 125 in the turns themselves. Fuel range between 65 and 70, perhaps even 75 laps around this track. Now then, let's see if we can get a green this time.
Yeah, what the starter wants is for Max Papis to bring these cars up to speed at a steady acceleration rather than just jumping on the throttle. And Mark Blundell is hanging back there. That's, well, I think the problem there was Mark Blundell. For some reason, he did not want to stay with Max Papis. And I'm not so sure. That's 2 yellow flag starts now. The starter's not going to like to do 3. And that was Mark Blundell's problem. The first time was Max Papis jumping too soon, and that one was because Mark Blundell held back. They both have to maintain position. They've been told about this before in the drivers' meeting yesterday afternoon, and I don't think the starter is going to tolerate another penalty there. I think he might well be issuing some penalties unless they get this start clean and proper next time around.
All right, well, the drivers certainly were keen that they built the speed up out of turn 4 rather than going into turn 3 because of the tight nature of these corners. They didn't want to be hard on it going into turn 3, the area they're at now. So they all agreed yesterday that they wouldn't get on it until they came out of turn 4, which is just the area they're going through now. Let's hope that they can keep it all together this time, side by side as they come out of turn 4. Max Papis gets the break again, and it's yellow. it's still yellow. Blundell's still slow away off turn 4.
Well, it's fairly ridiculous, actually, I have to say. And you can see there that Franchitti is pulling up alongside Mark Blundell as if to say, what the heck are you doing? Stay with him. You know you're supposed to accelerate off that turn. And if he doesn't do it this time around, I think they may well penalise Mark Blundell. That time it looked like a pretty good start. The guys behind Max Papis stayed right with him under acceleration, and Blundell again lagged.
Well, apparently race control is putting a message to Blundell to say, keep up with Papis, you're dropping back too much. Let's see what happens this time. Papis and Blundell lead the field around. Can they get a clean start this time? They've tried 3 times already, and now we've got to try again as they come off turn 4. Blundell still slow away, but they get the green, and Papis leads as they head down to turn 1 for the first racing lap here, and Vassar trying to get inside Blundell. Franchitti trying to go around the outside of Vassar. Franchitti on the outside, the battle for 3rd place as they go up the back stretch, and Franchitti just noses ahead as they head up towards turn number 3. Vassar's back to 4th, then it's Castro Neves. Montoya's made a pretty good getaway as well, and he's got past Greg Moore. You're on board with Juan Montoya sliding the car around on cold tyres, and we know how effective he can be on those cold tyres.
And some side-by-side racing down to the pack. There is Brian Herter there, just squeaking ahead of Roberto Moreno, and there is Greg Moore or Patrick Carponche back on the outside of PJ Jones, very, very tight down the back straight, very, very close as they shuffle themselves around midway through the pack.
Mark Blundell has dropped back a little bit in second. Look at the battle that's going on there between Herter, D'Amata, and there is Franchitti coming up past Blundell. Franchitti gets straight past Mark Blundell down into turn 1. That looked like a very good, clean manoeuvre, and now he goes chasing after Max Papis.
Absolutely was a great manoeuvre there by Franchitti. Got a great run off turn 4 and got the move done into turn 1. Vassar tried to do the same into 3. Look at him there. It's almost come to a stop, and he gets a run even then off Mark Blundell. Mark Blundell's car is clearly not handling well at this stage in the race. I think the car is loose in mid-corner. He can't get on the throttle because when he does so, the back end steps round him. He's understeering there. He can't get it into the corner either. Can't get it in, can't get it off. Big problem for Mark Blundell.
He's all over the place, and he's being passed by Juan Montoya now. Remember, they're on a full tank of fuel, and the car balance can change appreciably from what they had in qualifying. Blundell's car obviously worked brilliantly on a light fuel load in qualifying, but he is really struggling.
Montoya made steady progress through the field, finally catching race leader Max Papis on lap 63. Montoya and Franchitti traded the lead several times. Montoya finally seemed to come out on top after a pit stop on lap 165.
Dario Franchitti is also heading into the pits now.
Tires are on. Ready?
Looks like a good stop for Montoya.
Go, go, go.
Fuel is in and away he goes. 11.7 seconds.
Excellent stop by Target Chip Ganassi Racing and Rob Hill and the crew there. Another exemplary stop, and now Team Cool Green. That is Kyle Moyer and the crew will go to work on the car number 27. There they are, ready for service for Dario Franchitti.
In he comes then, ready for his tyre change and refueling. The pressure is on, but these guys do it every day. Back at the factory, there's a front wing change as well. Now that's interesting. We didn't see any changes on Montoya's car. Out comes Dario across the line, and there goes Montoya as they race side by side, one on the inside, one on the outside. Montoya is ahead of Franchitti as they come back out onto the track, and Montoya leads this race. Franchitti runs second. Again, it's the top 2 in the championship who will decide the outcome of today's race.
Montoya and Franchitti were still battling it out with 10 laps to go.
We're into the last 10-lap sprint now. It really is counting down to the end of this race. The first race at the Chicago Motor Speedway, and it looks as though Juan Montoya can hold on for victory here, but the pressure from Dario Franchitti is relentless as we are into the last section of this race, the last sprint, and it could still go either way. PJ Jones still in front of these two. Remember that Jimmy Vassar runs in 3rd place, Max Papis is still 4th, Helio Castroneves in 5th position, then Patrick Carpentier making his return to the series, driving great this afternoon, and he's in 6th place as Moreno has another little look down the inside of Franchitti, and Franchitti has to let him through this time. He has no choice. Moreno with the faster car goes ahead of Franchitti, but remember, that's not for position. That's just Moreno trying to unlap himself. but it does mean that he now lies between the two leaders.
That was close, wasn't it? And Franchitti didn't want to let him go. But, you know, who knows? It might turn out to be in his favour to have done that. Now, can Moreno make a move on Juan Montoya? And if he does, will he slow up Montoya? And will that give the opportunity for Dario Franchitti to make a pass as well as Barry Green there on the radio to Franchitti? He is still P2, and Barry Green said that is not a battle for position. Don't worry about that. Just keep your eyes focused on this car, the car we're on board with, the Target Chip Ganassi racing car of Juan Montoya.
Just 6 laps to go now, and Moreno in behind Juan Montoya, not for position, just trying to unlap himself, but really just, it's a wild card in the pack there that we're wondering, how is this going to come out? For the moment, it's working to Montoya's advantage, because the gap between Montoya and Franchitti, first and second, has definitely opened up, and as they come out of the last turn, and you're looking there at Jimmy Vasser and Max Papis, that's the distance between those two. Very similar battles, really, for the lead and for third place. It's Vasser third, Papis fourth, two good friends, and look how close they are with Helio Castroneves right in behind them as well. Max was saying after the press conference yesterday that Jimmy has helped him a lot in his years here in America, particularly on the ovals, and he says, you know, Jimmy's been a bit of a coach to me. He says sometimes the young kid comes along and beats the coach. That's what he's trying to do here this afternoon, and it's pretty close between these two.
Great stuff here. This is really exciting. Building down to the final stages now. Just 4 laps to go. It'll be 3 when they come past next time around as they go into the across the start-finish line one more time. So, oh, it's close here. There's not much. That is a battle for third position there with Jimmy Vasser still maintaining position ahead of Papis, and there, right behind them, is Helio Castroneves.
Papis looking for that slight opportunity. He's got forward horsepower. Remember, 3 different engine units in the battle here. Honda in the back of Vasser's car, Ford in the back of Papis' car, Mercedes in the back of Helio Castroneves' car, and it's the forward horsepower of Max Papis that might just give him the edge on the long straights here. But look, there's the lead battle, and Montoya still ahead of Moreno, but it's Franchitti who runs in second place. Lots of traffic to deal with. Franchitti gets past Hattori okay, safely. Hattori runs wide, and there's just 2 laps to go, less than 2 laps to go as they head along the backstretch. Montoya's looking good here today. There will be the white flag awaiting him as he comes out of turn 4 on this occasion. Is he going to take a record-breaking 6th win for a rookie in his first season? Juan Montoya is breaking all the records, and it looks as though he's going to break another record here today. He's going to win at his team owner's own racetrack, Chip Ganassi's racetrack here in Chicago, the brand new facility, and it's Chip Ganassi's driver who is going to win here this afternoon. He's withstood all the pressure. He started 10th, but Juan Montoya takes the applause from the grandstand. Montoya wins it.
You are the man, baby. You.
And Chip Ganassi.
Oh, thanks, guys. Beautiful pit, beautiful everything.
And there you really hear the delight in Montoya's voice. He worked for that one, and he really appreciates it. Vasser takes third from Max Papis. Great battle between those two throughout this race. And Team Rahal pretty happy there. I think Bobby pleased with what his man did today. A 4th place finish. But Montoya, the winner, once again, win number 6 in the book. And that means he takes the championship lead back from Dario Franchitti.
With 15 out of 20 races won, the championship is still up for grabs. Montoya leads the way with 172 points, Franchitti just behind with 168, Michael Andretti third on 124, Paul Tracy fourth with 122, and on 101 and in 5th place is Fittipaldi.
Round 16 of the kart series, the Molson Indy from Vancouver, began under caution in a heavy downpour.
Here we are, building up the speed. Montoya is going to get this race underway at last. We've already had 10 laps in the books as they slither onto the pit straight. He puts the power down. The green flag waves at last, and we get racing underway. Montoya leads. PJ Jones is in 2nd place. Tracy 3rd, and Franchitti and Blundell wheel to wheel into turn number 1 there. They managed to get through, I think, safely enough, and Montoya pulls away a little bit from PJ Jones. Tracy, Franchitti getting sideways. Blundell, Moreno, then De Ferran, followed by Greg Moore and Maurizio Gugelmin in these slippery conditions where visibility virtually 0 if you're following another car. There again, Franchitti getting quite sideways.
And the one guy that really favours on that visibility, of course, is Montoya. No one in front of him, so he can just drive off the rest of these guys.
Look at Blundell. Look at Blundell. He went right round the outside of Franchitti into turn number 9. Blundell, who qualified 5th, is in fighting form here. The Englishman who's done enough wet races in his career to know how to drive in these conditions, and he's just gone round the outside of Dario Franchitti. None of the teams have had much chance, no chance, to test in the wet. Oh, problem.
Gilles de Ferran, I think, has got problems down the inside of the chicane there.
He's been hit. He's been hit by somebody, or he hit the wall. I'm not sure which. Gilles de Ferran, who'd gone past Moreno, and I wanted to see what progress he could make because he's the only one up front running the Goodyear wet tyre, of course, but it looks as though it's all over. A lot of damage to that right rear. And the green flag comes out. Montoya leads as they cross the line. 16 laps completed. PJ Jones in 3rd under attack from Blundell. Franchitti's gone wide. Oh, he saved it.
Contact, no contact.
Oh, he somehow got it back. I thought he was headed for the tyre barrier there, but he has been passed.
And he only lost the 1 position, though, to Moreno, but going wide, that would have Franchitti concerned. He's got to do everything he can to stay in contact in the points battle with Montoya.
And watch Blundell. Mark Blundell is the man on the charge. He's had problems with PJ Jones in the past, I know, and he's down the inside, and he's determined to take over that 3rd place, and he gets through safely, and yes, gets on the power cleanly, and pulls quickly away from PJ. So now it's Montoya leading. 2nd place, Paul Tracy, and 3rd place, Mark Blundell, enjoying his best run of the season so far. These two battling for the lead.
Here he goes.
This is the battle. Tracy's down the inside, and into turn number 7. Paul Tracy takes the lead in Vancouver from Juan Montoya. Great pass as they get mixed up in traffic, but he didn't even need the traffic, really. It was a simple out-braking pass, and Tracy's car is working perfectly in these conditions. Montoya is slithering around, and he hasn't got an answer for the Canadian.
And there'd be no one happier than Dario Franchitti to see Paul Tracy make that move and take those points away from Montoya. Of course, early yet, we've still got pit stops and everything else to go. As Montoya stays down the inside, trying to get water, Tracy goes down the inside of Magnussen. Magnussen sees him, stays out wide, lets him through, and now he's just going to get past Greg Moore.
Good driving by Magnussen, aware. Oh, and Tracy's lost it! Tracy has lost it! Would you believe it? He's thrown it away down at turn number 3, and he had it there. He was leading Montoya. He finds his first, gets it going again, and Tracy does rejoin. He's still in 2nd place. There's Moreno. Paul Tracy stays in 2nd position. Moreno, though, is now right behind him.
How hard did he hit that wall, though? He got it stopped, but he did still make contact with the wall. That may have damaged the rear wing. Brian Herter spins in the middle of the straightaway, too.
The subsequent yellow flag meant the gaps closed up. Earlier in the race, Dario Franchitti had been 29 seconds behind Juan Montoya, but now there's only his Team Cool Green co-driver Paul Tracy between him and his championship rival, Montoya.
Meanwhile, we're hearing that there have been some orders, not quite orders, but discussion with the team between these two boys.
It would appear that Barry Green has radioed in and said to Paul Tracy, if you cannot catch Montoya, then you've got to let Dario have a go. And there he is. He's letting him... Oh, maybe... No, Dario!
He's not letting him through. No, it looked like it for a moment, but Dario very nearly lost it on the slippery stuff on the inside there. I have to say, good idea from Barry Green, but will Tracy obey it? That's the problem. At the moment, he's not. And there's no doubt that he's dropping away from Montoya. They really should allow Franchitti, in my opinion, in terms of the championship, they ought to let Franchitti go into 2nd place and at least see if he can stay with Montoya at this stage, but perhaps Paul Tracy has other ideas as he comes up behind PJ Jones. Oh, they've hit each other! They've made contact. Franchitti's on the brakes trying to avoid the melee that's caused. Andretti almost hits PJ Jones at the same time, and well, that was almost predictable, I suppose. Now Franchitti down the inside into turn number 1, and Franchitti does go into 2nd place. But look at this, we're now building up for the restart as Montoya leads Dario Franchitti. Just 5 points separate these two in the championship. There are 4 points difference for finishing 1st or 2nd. Paul Tracy in 3rd place. They're all getting past the lapped car of Luis Garcia Jr. running up with the leaders at the moment, but he's a couple of laps down, don't forget, as Franchitti tucks himself right in behind Juan Montoya. Oh, and he loses it, and Franchitti makes a mess of trying to get past Montoya. Montoya gave him room, got out of the way. Franchitti's damaged his rear wing, and he gets going again. He hasn't stalled the engine. He should be able to rejoin, but he's just thrown away a potential podium finish here today, and he is going to be cursing himself for that one, because it was a half chance that wasn't really on. Take a look at this again. Montoya was turning in. Franchitti over brakes because he knew he wasn't going to make it, and lost the back end of the car and threw it into the tyre wall. And what a shame, after we were looking forward to the battle between these two.
And he was coming from a long way from behind. You've just been talking about how it's down to these two, and Dario, it looked like he did a big lunge down there to try and make that move, and that is just going to cost him an absolute fortune in the championship. Amazingly, his wing seems to have put itself back up, and now Mark Blundell.
Well, this might produce, well, it will produce another full course caution. Now remember, he's on slicks, but Tracy's out! Tracy's out altogether now as well. The car's wrecked. I don't know what happened there. There's bits and pieces all over the place. That's the last corner before they come across start-finish. And Montoya suddenly is being handed this one, if he can keep it on the track. As the yellows come out again, we've got cars littering the track, and it's all changed on the restart. And once again, let's take a look there. Now, Blundell was on slicks, remember, did almost the same as Greg Moore, except he got the rear on the wet first, and that slammed into the barrier. And then Tracy on wets just lost it, just overcooked it coming into that last corner and wiped off the front end of the car.
Only 16 of the 27 starters were running at the end of the race, which ended 16 laps short because of a 2-hour time limit. Montoya went on to take his 7th victory of the series, followed by Carpentier, Vassar and Gugelmin. Franchitti came 10th and now trails the Colombian by 23 points. Round 17 from Monterey, California started on a sad note after Gonzalo Rodriguez, a 27-year-old from Uruguay, had a fatal accident during practice. Brian Herter won for the second year running at the Laguna Seca Raceway. Franchitti didn't help his championship chances when he crashed out on lap 32 with Greg Moore, enabling Montoya, who finished 8th, to increase his lead to 29 points ahead of the Scotsman. Having scored no points at Laguna Seca, Franchitti came into the next race in Houston, trailing Montoya by 29 points. With only 3 races and 66 total points remaining, the Colombian could clinch the championship title in this race. The first 2 laps were run under a yellow flag because the leaders were not lined up properly, but on the 3rd attempt, a green was given. Montoya led from pole. Franchitti was in the 2nd row.
Here we go then. Are we going to get green? Yes, we get a green flag at last, and Juan Montoya makes a good start. Look out for Tracy. Paul Tracy charging down towards the first corner. Tracy on the outside. Herter into 3rd. Franchitti going around the outside of Rahal, and Franchitti's trying to battle for 4th not with Rahal, with Max Papis. Sorry, I'm saying Rahal, but it's Max Papis and Franchitti side by side. Franchitti trying to stay with Max Papis, but he can't do it, and Papis finally gets into 4th place after about the 4th corner on this first lap. Franchitti has lost a place. Look at this. Dario Franchitti's lost a place to Gilles de Ferran, and this is the battle over 5th place. De Ferran down the inside at the end of that long straight and got alongside Franchitti. Good move by De Ferran, got just alongside enough that Franchitti was not able to shut the door. And Canaan there had a great chance to get past as well, but obviously just backed out at the last moment because Dario Franchitti still in 6th place, but he's got Tony Canaan breathing down his neck now as they're on the long stretch down towards turn 5. This is where Gilles de Ferran did it last time around, and it looks as though Canaan over the bumps does it very cleanly, and Franchitti really is struggling at the moment. The car not looking stable under braking. He seems to have to brake earlier than the others, and he is losing places all the time. Now Jan Magnussen goes for the inside as well, and there's no answer from Dario Franchitti. And apparently they do not know what the problem is on Franchitti's car. We're hearing from their pits that there's confusion at the moment. They don't know what the problem is. They don't know why he's going so slowly. And right now he's got Greg Moore behind him, Richie Hearn, Patrick Carpentier, all bearing down on the Scot. And it looks as though his championship is out of the window here. Of course, Montoya leading at the moment. It still depends. There is Castroneves in trouble. Helio Castroneves has hit the barrier by the looks of things, ripped off the front wing there. Oh, and that's Montoya! I think that's Montoya. It is Montoya! The leader of the race has hit Helio Castroneves, and he's wrecked his right front suspension, and Paul Tracy goes into the lead, and suddenly, from Franchitti being in trouble, now it's Montoya in trouble.
Yeah, and off comes the steering wheel there, and absolute dejection there for Juan Montoya. He's thrown away his hopes of tying up the championship this afternoon, and the yellow flags were waving there. He must have been told by his crew that the yellows were out. Here, look, here's the replay of it. You can see there Castroneves stationary in the road there, and you can see the yellow flags just on the corner of the screen. And what was Montoya playing at? It's not as if it's not a particularly blind corner, that.
With his rival now out of the picture, Franchitti was back in the running for the championship. He took advantage of the subsequent yellow to go into the pits to sort out his tyres, which put him all the way back to 19th position. But the Scotsman used the next 30 laps to play catch-up with teammate Paul Tracy, who'd taken over the lead when Montoya crashed out. When Tracy pitted himself on lap 48, Franchitti took his chance.
Paul Tracy rejoined, and ironically rejoining in front of teammate Dario Franchitti. Franchitti now is right up there, of course, because he made an earlier pit stop, and he's now right up at the front.
That's right, so the strategy all playing out now. Franchitti made his pit stop on lap 13, so therefore he should be looky there. Look at these two, and locking up the brakes there goes Paul Tracy, trying to stay ahead of Dario Franchitti. He has absolutely no need to stay ahead of Dario Franchitti. In fact, what the hell is he doing? Well, he's blocking Franchitti. Is he going to let him go? Yes, he is going to let him go, and that's exactly the right move to make. He knows that Franchitti really is no threat to him, assuming other things remain equal, of course. He just has to stay out on the racetrack. He has a huge lead over what will be the second-place car once the cycle of pit stops has been completed, and at this stage, he should be happy where he is.
Franchitti made his own pit stop on lap 51, giving the lead back to Tracy and slipped back to third. The positions remained static for the next 30 laps, but then finally Franchitti won his battle for second place, joining Tracy up front again.
Well, look at that. We saw an amazing coming together there between Franchitti. You talked about not taking risks there, Jeremy, but they got right in together. And Roberto just pointing out, it looks as though one of those flick up on the rear side pod may have been knocked off Franchitti's car. Look at this. Dive down the inside into turn 2. Well, Christian was already really turning in. Yes, you can see it being knocked off. That little side downforce addition on the side pod shouldn't really make any difference to the handling of the car. And there's another angle as they come out of turn number 2.
Yeah, I wonder what he thought he was playing at. So basically speaking, you cannot overtake that. You see, he's not alongside the guy. That wasn't a clean pass. At this stage in the season, that was a ridiculous move by Dario.
Paul Tracy with the lead of this race with 12 laps to go. And it's been an awfully long time since he's won on a road or street course. Way back in 1995. Over 4 years ago was the last time that Paul Tracy won on a street course, and that was in Australia at Surfers Paradise, in fact, which is, of course, the next race on the calendar. But here in Houston, Tracy has a real opportunity to take the victory if he's got enough fuel and if he can save that fuel and take it all the way through.
But will team orders come into play? Barry Green really has no alternative, I think, in this situation to hand the win to Dario Franchitti. Those 4 points could be absolutely crucial in the battle for the championship. I think it'd be silly if he did not ask Paul Tracy to come in and relinquish that lead to his teammate Dario Franchitti. Paul Tracy has said all along he will do anything it takes to help Dario win the championship if he himself is not in a position to win the championship. And there's some fascinating stuff coming up here this afternoon, and there's a lot to play. We've got it'll be 10 laps to go, 11 laps to go when they come past this time, and we've got a race on our hands. And even if it's not for first place, there is that battle there. The two Newman Haas cars there of Christian Fittipaldi and Michael Andretti battling over third place.
Yes, and talking of Paul Tracy, of course, Jeremy, he's battling for third place in the series with Michael Andretti. But Michael, as you say there, running in fourth position, we see him right behind his teammate. So if Tracy's asked to fall behind Franchitti, it means there's only going to be one car between himself and his main rival for third in the championship. They're only split by a few points at this stage, so I can imagine Paul Tracy being a little upset about that, because it could affect his chances for third place at the end of the season. But it is Paul Tracy, I think, who's going to make it if he's just got a few more drops of fuel in this car. He's driven an absolutely brilliant race and fully deserves the win here today. And in many ways, I'm glad they haven't told him to back off, because Tracy deserves this one. Absolutely wheel perfect throughout the race. And Paul Tracy, the Canadian, wins in Houston.
Great job, mate. Great job now.
Franchitti came in second, followed by Michael Andretti and Max Papis. Christian Fittipaldi slipped back to 7th after taking a pit stop on the 98th lap. In terms of the championship, the results make a big difference. Franchitti, who came to Houston trailing Montoya by 29 points, is now just 13 behind with 2 races to go.
Surfers' paradise on the Gold Coast of Australia was the setting of the penultimate race of the season. Despite Montoya crashing out in Houston, he's still on the verge of clinching the title. If he scores 10 points or more than Franchitti here, he will take the championship. The Scotsman will be doing all he can to make sure that doesn't happen as he goes into the race with a head start on pole position.
Frankitti's got away. Up into second is Pruitt. Tracy third, Herter fourth, and everybody trying to squeeze through this first chicane.
Greg Moore coming around the outside there. Looked like he picked up a couple of spots. This is what Franchitti wanted, though. He wanted to jump to the lead. It's hard to overtake, and now he wants to run away, leave Montoya, who dropped the position to Fernandez.
Yes, Adrian Fernandez managed to get past Juan Montoya. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is Montoya. But look at that dust or smoke being thrown up from the back of Gugelmin's car there. It is smoke, and it looks as though Gugelmin is in big trouble on the opening lap. Maurizio Gugelmin in the Pac West car started in 9th place, but it doesn't look as though he's going to be able to hold on to that much longer, unless that's just a very full oil tank or something like that. But that looks pretty serious.
Now it's getting worse. I was thinking, De France made contact. He is off. Yellow flag is out. Not all around, just here at this point.
There's Andretti going through the picture. Fernandez coming through. There's Montoya. Juan Montoya lies down in 7th place, and so far, no progress for the Colombian. And, well, I wonder how he's going to play this one.
I wouldn't count him out. We've seen him make great progresses during the race. Mo Nunn will be talking through it. There may have to make some adjustments on his pit stop. He may pick up a couple of positions on his pit stop with some great teamwork. Definitely don't count Montoya out.
No, certainly not. I wouldn't dream of it.
A lot of smoke from Christian Fittipaldi.
That's right. It looks as though it's all over.
Stop.
Oh, dear.
Runoff area there, but took him everything to get it stopped. You can see the flames at the back of the car. It all obviously went wrong mechanically before it went wrong with locking it up and trying to get it stopped. He's getting out, but it's getting hot in that car.
Meanwhile, look at this. Great battle between Montoya and Andretti. This is good close stuff. This is what we want to see. And Montoya down in 7th place now, really beginning to put a charge on Michael down towards the chicane. It's narrow down here. There's not much space. Montoya trying to go around the outside, and he does it. He goes around the outside of Andretti. Andretti certainly drove well there to give him the room, and now Kanaan trying to get past as well, and Andretti seems to have dropped off the pace in the last couple of laps.
Team Cool Green's Paul Tracy was given a black flag for overtaking Brian Herter before crossing the start line. His penalty drive through the pit lane set him back from 3rd place to 10th.
And you have to consider how all of this figures into this championship battle, with Dario Franchitti coming here having to stay ahead or at least in visual contact with Juan Montoya. Now, Montoya currently is in 5th place. The only pass he's been able to make thus far coming up through the field has been around Michael Andretti. But Franchitti was kind of counting on the positioning of Paul Tracy in 3rd place being ahead of Montoya as part of the whole tactical situation in how they were going to run this race. 13 laps are complete. We should be coming very close to the opening of the window for the very first round of pit stop. With Paul Tracy back at 10th, he can't be any help to Franchitti at all. At the top of the order, too, it's still an interesting battle with the power plants. Franchitti, Pruitt, Herta.
Franchitti stayed in the lead, but meanwhile his championship rival Juan Montoya had taken advantage of the caution laps to move up to 2nd place behind the Scot.
And we are back under a full course caution. It occurred when Naoki Hattori and Mark Blundell got together. Here it is. Blundell trying to move to the inside and overhaul Hattori.
And you can see he's got the front brake starting to lock here. He just doesn't have the pass. Hattori sees him, but really can't get out of the way here, and they both make contact with the outside wall as well as each other.
And it does take Mark Blundell out of the run, but it also sings out the twin flags for the full course caution and brings the leaders into the pits. Dario Franchitti already on the pit road. Gary Gerald.
Crew waiting and watching for him. This has just become a 3-stop race as far as these guys are concerned, unless we get an exceptional amount of yellow, the distance to go. We watch the service for Franchitti. His teammate Paul Tracy pulls in right behind him. He's got Brian Herta in front of him. Franchitti's on the move first. He gets away clean, protecting the lead. And Fernandez rolls by and may have picked up a spot in the pits.
And Montoya loses ground. Montoya does over a 10-second pit stop, and he loses ground. The target team normally flawless. They lost some time on that one.
Montoya comes out behind Adrian Fernandez. 36 laps in the record book with the stops. Max Pappas assumes the lead. Dario Franchitti now second, followed by Fernandez and Juan Montoya.
Franchitti resumed the lead when Papis pitted on the 47th lap and stayed ahead of Montoya, but the Colombian's race was to end prematurely 2 laps later on lap 49.
Juan Montoya trying to chase and fight, locked up the brakes and went head-on into the barrier. The championship fight will go on to the final race of the season at California Speedway. Remember Houston, his problem there? Came around the corner and there was a car already stopped on the course, interestingly enough. He tried to lay that one off on Chip Ganassi, the car owner, who climbs down from the stand because he had not jumped on it right away with the radio. But in this case, it's all Montoya. The car sits empty. Montoya already away from it, and Parker, here it is.
Well, you can see it's pretty simple there, Paul. He got a little wide. You can see the marbles on the track there. Montoya's had problems all weekend long going down escape roads, using the most of the runoff. He hasn't hit anything until now, but he just got in too hot. He locked him up. And when they're not turning, they're not steering. This is just the break everyone else needed to come into the pits for that last stop.
As they come back with 13 laps remaining. Magnussen, can you imagine how he feels, Parker, sitting in the front of that mess?
Well, but imagine he's got Franchitti and Papis behind him, and Papis had turned a lap prior to this yellow a half a second quicker than anybody else in the field. He's going to have his mirrors full.
Green flag, we're back to racing. Franchitti tries to make his move early and put Magnussen between him and Max Papis. He gets it done. Through one clean, working on 2. Franchitti now pulls away. So the players here are now Franchitti at the front and Papis, who sits currently 3rd.
Watch what happens as they come out here. Everyone's getting bunched up behind Michael Andretti. Watch Kanaan, Tracy, D'Amata. It's going to be a good race back here.
53 laps complete. Expect Magnussen out of the order there right after the 60th, 61st lap. Tony Kanaan, Cristiano D'Amata, Paul Tracy still at one another.
But the story is all about Dario Franchitti holding on up front, driving from pole position. He's set the pace throughout this race and has never really looked troubled by anybody else out there. In the early stages, Pruitt stayed within a second or two of Dario Franchitti, but nobody's ever been able to challenge him, and he's coming out of the final couple of corners here. This is an amazing win for Dario Franchitti, and it could be the most vital victory of his career. Franchitti wins in Australia. He takes 22 points from the meeting. Pole position, the race win, and leader of most laps, and he's done it in a truly impressive way. Papis finishes second, Fernandez is third, Herta finishes in 4th place.
Franchitti went to the top of the leaderboard, taking the battle for the championship to the final round at Fontana, California.
Dario Franchitti versus Juan Montoya. Today, one of them will be crowned kart champion. Montoya burst onto the champ car scene this season, winning 3 of the first 5 races. He led the championship for 8 events. Franchitti briefly stole the championship lead away after wins at Toronto and Detroit. But the rookie answered the call with 3 straight wins, giving him a commanding points lead. Montoya's mistakes at Houston and Australia contrast with a 2nd place and a win for Franchitti, which have handed the Scotsman a 9-point advantage with just 1 race to go. Franchitti is now the leader, Montoya the pursuer. 500 miles separate one of these men from the Cup. Here we are then, getting ready for the start of the final race of the season. Pace car is in the pit lane, and Scott Pruitt and Max Papis lead the field around, coming through turns 3 and 4 now, building up the speed gradually. Scott Pruitt, the veteran who was starting his final Champ Car race before going to NASCAR. A great day for him as he starts from Toyota's first ever pole, but how long can he lead as they take the green flag? Max Papis on the outside, Brian Herter on the inside, and diving through on the inside, Montoya down low, Vassar up high, and the two Ganassi cars immediately coming to the front as Max Papis has the advantage. Pruitt is going backwards from pole position, and now it's Papis and Michael Andretti dropping down on the inside there into second. Montoya down close to the inside as well, and it's all happening immediately on this opening lap.
Good grief. Montoya really taking a lot of risks there for the opening lap of the most crucial race of his career, but he is in there, well, third or fourth, or third, fourth, third, back up into fourth. I don't know what you call it, Ben, but a great racing. There goes Michael Andretti. Once again, he moves to the front straight away and into the lead on lap 2.
The Swift chassis with a Ford engine takes over the lead then from the Ford-engined car of Max Papis in second place, then the Honda power of Juan Montoya. It was Montoya at the line just in third place, then it's Vassar in fourth place, and Franchitti in fifth place. Good start from Dario Franchitti as well. Good opening lap from him. Oh, we've got a crash at turn number 3. Oh, it's a big accident. Richie Hearn has slammed the wall on the inside. We didn't see the start of that. And Richie Hearn, the young American racer with the Budweiser-sponsored car, driving for John Della Penna's team. And he takes the steering wheel off. So movement in the cockpit, and it looks as though he's trying to get himself out of that car. Let's take another look and see if we can spot. Oh, he spun on his own. He lost the back end of the car. Round it went and slammed into the wall on the inside. Similar place to where Paul Tracy went off last year, but much faster for Richie Hearn because he was at full racing speed.
On lap 71, several drivers stopped to pit. Andretti, who'd been leading, went out with oil problems.
Michael Andretti fights his way to the front, and then, cruelly, it seems, some kind of mechanical problem. Yet more frustration for Michael Andretti.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It means that Max Papis is now in front. Montoya is in the pits and gets away safely. So Montoya's made his stop. Franchitti's made his stop. There is Dario Franchitti, and everybody else piling into the pit lane at the moment as well. There is Franchitti. Do you see that little bit of a wobble on the car? What's going on here for Franchitti? Perhaps one of those wheels hasn't gone on properly. He's wiggling the car around, or is the car doing that to him?
It's going very slowly indeed. He's not up to racing speeds at all. There is no caution on the track, and Dario Franchitti has a problem and is coming back into the pit lane. He's certainly not happy with the car. Obviously, as he was out on the track, it didn't feel right, and in that situation, in this sort of a race, you don't take any chances, you bring it into the pits.
You have to do that, and Montoya, of course, has had a good stop. Got away cleanly, and look at that
left rear is down, doesn't it?
Yeah, the left rear seems to be punctured, perhaps a whole set of tyres being changed.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Well, you never just change one tyre. If you're going to change one, it's as quick to change all 4. You might as well put a complete set of tyres on there, already run these tyres, but now a problem with the right rear.
Yeah, the right rears, they've got a trouble. They can't get the right... Now, finally, the wheel nut comes off, and eventually they get the new tyre on.
This is costing valuable time. He will lose at least a couple of laps, I think, to the leaders. By the time he's back underway, it's Dave Poppelart's there on that right rear corner. He had a problem with that wheel. Don't know what it was. We'll try and find out for you. Meanwhile, Juan Montoya is back out on the track, and Christian Fittipaldi has not... Yeah, he's just been into the pits now and was leader last time around. And Max Papis now has taken up the lead of this race with 75 laps in the books.
That extra stop cost Franchitti 2 laps, whilst Montoya was up in third place. Indeed, on his next pit stop on the 136th lap, the crew still couldn't get the wheel right.
There's a problem with that right rear again, and they've dropped it down before they got it off. So this crew really has not got it together here today. It's all going wrong for them, and the disappointment, the frustration of what's going on here for Dario Franchitti, for that crew which has been so strong this year. They've been so consistent all season long, and now when it counts, it's just slipping away from them. But don't forget, if Montoya for any reason doesn't finish this race, Franchitti will still be champion.
The front runners, Fittipaldi, Montoya and Papis, all made a last dash for fuel, but 6th place Adrian Fernandez took a gamble and remained on the track.
There's Franchitti, 9th position for the Scotsman. and he is ahead of Montoya, but he's coming in. Franchitti has to make a stop, and that's surely the championship for Juan Montoya. They could not make it on fuel. Dario Franchitti has to make the pit stop, and this is going to drop him down. Now, I think it'll only drop him down to 10th, perhaps. We'll have to see how much position he loses here as a result of this stop, but they could not make it through on the fuel, and suddenly it's changed again, and Montoya is the favourite to take the title. Montoya lies in 5th place. Adrian Fernandez is going to win the final race of 1999, and it's his 2nd win of the year. If the fuel holds out, I think it's going to. Adrian Fernandez coming through turns 3 and 4, and he takes the checkered flag. Fernandez is the winner of the last race of the season. But what about the championship? Wait for the others. Papis is going to finish in 2nd place. Max Papis is going to take 2nd. Fittipaldi is 3rd, and Montoya.
Stay on it.
Montoya is champion.
You're the champion. You are the champion.
Montoya is the champion. He wins the title by scoring more wins than Franchitti. We wait for Franchitti to cross the line. It looks as though Franchitti's going to finish in 10th position. Just wait to see if anyone runs out of fuel, because that could make a difference here. But I don't think there's going to be any other changes. They're across the line. It's all over. Franchitti is 10th. They score exactly the same number of points, 212 points each. Montoya is champion.
The final race of the 1999 season ended on a sad note when American Greg Moore was killed on the 10th lap when he crashed into a concrete wall. His accident marks the 2nd death this season after Rodriguez crashed in Monterey.